Good morning, 5 o'clock now, and I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. We're at 40 fair degrees right now, kind of chilly, and we'll get a sunny high of 71 later on today. Pretty nice. We'll check out the forecast with Stefano in just a minute. We begin this morning with some breaking news. An East Tennessee pastor has been rescued in South Africa. That's where he was kidnapped last week.
Pastor Josh Sullivan was rescued after a shootout between the South African Police Service and the alleged kidnappers. 3 of the kidnappers were killed in the shootout.
Channel 4's Alexandria Adams there with that breaking news. The pastor had been kidnapped from his church in South Africa last Thursday and held for ransom. Police reportedly followed up on a tip. They found him in a safe house. Pastor Sullivan is unharmed. Tennessee legislators have passed a bill that increases the amount of time school kids spend on the playground. That bill mandates schools provide at least 40 minutes of recess each day. Right now, the state minimum is 15 minutes. Republicans in the state Senate are also looking to trim Governor Lee's near $60 billion budget proposal by almost $180 million.
If passed, gone will be $60 million Lee had earmarked for a starter home fund meant to benefit first-time homebuyers and ease the housing crisis here in Tennessee. The nearly $125 million Governor Lee wanted to set aside to help preserve the Duck River, that would be slashed by nearly $90 million, and several faith-based nonprofits favored by the governor would either get cut way back or flat out eliminated.
Channel 4 Stacey Cameron reporting there. Now, it's not clear how the state house will handle those cuts. Both chambers hope to vote on a budget as early as today. Democrat Congressman from Maryland, Chris Van Hollen, says he'll travel to El Salvador to show solidarity with the El Salvadoran man deported back to his home country by the Trump administration. Meantime, a judge is ramping up the rhetoric against the administration.
A judge now considering contempt proceedings, saying the administration has done nothing to comply with the Supreme Court's order to facilitate his return from El Salvador. Justice Department lawyers saying the administration is prepared to facilitate Abrego Garcia's presence in the United States, but only if he presents at a port of entry.
That's ABC's Andrew Dimbird reporting. Market numbers now brought to you by Beacon Capital Management, online at beaconcm.com.
Markets closed modestly lower. The Dow lost 156 points. The S&P dipped 9 points. The Nasdaq was nearly even. The U.S. bond market showed signs of calm after sharp moves last week that raised concerns. The value of the U.S. dollar also steadied after its fall last week. Investors were focused on a slew of corporate earnings. Albertsons fell almost 8% despite reporting a stronger profit for the latest quarter than analysts expected. It's because the company behind Safeway and Vons also gave a forecast that's short of expectations. Healthcare company DaVita dipped nearly 3% after reporting a ransomware attack over the weekend. The company still investigating the scope of that intrusion. On the winning end was Bank of America, which added 4% after reporting stronger profit for the latest quarter than what analysts expected. Michelle Franzen, ABC News.
That is the latest news. We've got your traffic and weather next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News. Well, no delays this morning. We're looking really good on the major roadways headed in. No problems at all on 24 so far. 65 is no problem as well. And 40, no delays. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.506, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 89.7 WTN. Good morning to your friends. How are you? It is April 16th. It is Wednesday on Super Talk 89.7 WTN. I don't have time to do it now, Joan, but I cannot wait to do this story.
Which one?
We all remember New York Attorney General Letitia James.
James. I love this.
You know, no one is above the law, Letitia
That's the
James.
one. Yeah.
So you can perhaps, if you want, chalk this up to, oh, my God, Donald Trump is going after his political enemies.
Oh, yeah.
She's been doing stuff that is, let's just say, unethical at the least, perhaps against the law when it comes to her real estate dealings. And now they're looking at her real estate dealings, and I'm going to go through this. I want to make sure that I have all my ducks in a row. Mm-hmm. But Jonathan Turley has some great audio out there of Letitia James and what she is accused of doing. I will give you a hint, though. Apparently, she had her father co-sign on a loan for a home, but she listed her father as her husband.
Oh, this sounds very Ilhan Omar-ish.
That's not sketch, is it?
That's Game of Thrones-y.
So we'll talk about that. Well, I think, I don't really think she's, doing her dad. I think what she's doing is she was
using
him to perhaps get a better loan or whatever it is. And so anyway, we'll talk about that. I just realized my beauty lights are not on.
Oh, no.
Got to make sure the beauty lights are on.
Without them, you have no beauty. Or something like that.
I don't know if that was supposed to be mean or not.
No. No.
Oh.
He's not beautiful unless he has them on.
Listen, I don't care how many beauty lights I have. It does not do the trick. Moving right along. So there is a lot going on, and I do want to get to Letitia James. Maybe I'll have my stuff together by 5:35, because it really is an incredible story. Because when you look back on all of the audio and all of the things that she said about Donald Trump, no one is above the law. And then you start looking at her real estate dealings, and it just looks sketch. And let's be honest. Letitia James, New York Attorney General, of course, if you folks don't know, if you're new to the program, she ran her entire campaign for Attorney General as going after Donald Trump. And so she was basically a get Trump candidate. And so then she went after Donald Trump. And so now the tables have turned, and we'll talk about that and a whole lot more straight ahead on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Also, to let you know where we are going today, Carmelo Anthony, we've got the latest on that story. My Lord. People are trying to compare Carmelo Anthony to Kyle Rittenhouse. I don't know if you've seen that.
I have not, and there is not even a shred of truth to that.
Not even a comparison.
He was attacked by one guy who was in jail for child rape. Can we forget that part?
Well, so, and I don't want to blow the whole thing here, but I'll just say that clearly, if you know anything about Kyle Rittenhouse, you know that was clearly self-defense. Clearly self-defense. And it was in a chaotic situation. Carmelo Anthony, it was not a chaotic situation, and he's trying to play the self-defense card, but clearly it was not. So we'll talk about that. The El Salvador gangbanger still in the news today. I could not believe you've got these Democrats now, the Senate Democrats, including Cory Booker and the Democrat from Maryland, now going to be going off to El Salvador to see if they can rescue him from this El Salvadoran prison. Have you seen that story? So that is also part of the news cycle today. Donald Trump has now announced that he is going to, this was, I guess, breaking news last night. He has now announced that he is going to begin a major self-deportation initiative. This is what he said last night. This was on Fox. They've got, I guess, a Spanish-speaking channel. I don't know. But this is what the president said.
As you probably know, we're doing a self-deportation, and we're going to make it comfortable for people, and we're going to work with those people to come back into our country legally. We're starting it. We haven't started it right now. We're getting the murderers out. We have our total aim on the very bad ones, as you can imagine, because you have some great people that came in.
Yeah, all right. So President Trump, and by the way, watch us on YouTube. Watch us anywhere. You can watch us on YouTube. You can watch us on Facebook. You can watch us on X. 997WTN.com. Go to YouTube, though. That is where I recommend you watch the show. Take the Daily Dan poll, and I want to know, do you agree with this new policy where Donald Trump has announced that he is going to be giving illegal aliens money, a stipend, to go back to where they came from and then fill out the paperwork and all that kind of stuff and try to come in legally? They'll go to, if you will, the front of the line. And so part of what's going on is that Trump and Tom Homan, they need to figure out a way to get all of these folks that are here illegally out, because there's millions of them. And so the bottom line is they need help. We don't have the resources. We don't have the agents. We don't have the money. And it is almost, well, it is impossible to round up all of these people. And so now Donald Trump, he's always floated this idea of self-deportation, but now he is getting into some specifics. Here's part of what he said.
But we have some very bad ones. We had 11,088 murderers. Half of them killed more than one person. These are rough, bad people. We want them out. And that's mostly our focus.
Yeah.
But what we want to do is we're going to have a self-deportation program, which we haven't even announced yet. I guess I'm announcing it to you. Why not, Rachel? Here it is. The only thing I haven't determined is what are we going to do? We're going to give them a stipend. We're going to give them some money and a plane ticket. And then we're going to work with them. If they're good, if we want them back in, we're going to work with them to get them back in as quickly as we can.
So I know that there's going to be a lot of people, maybe you, that are screaming at the radio right now, screaming at your phone watching, screaming at the computer watching. Why in the world are we going to pay people who broke the law coming into our country illegally? Why would we actually reward them for doing that? I think from Donald Trump's point of view, that he needs to do something to get these people out of here and have them turn around and do this the legal way. So he's going to be, and he didn't mention how much the stipend will be, but I think what he's doing is he's spending some money now to get these folks in here legally so that we can start taxing them if they then ultimately end up going to work. Because, you know, a lot of these people who are here illegally, they are working under the table, they're living in the shadows and all of that. So basically what Donald Trump is doing is he's offering for them a way to, really a pathway to come into our country legally by going home, applying to get in, which is what they're supposed to do. Got a little bit more on this straight ahead. It is 5:15 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Time to check the roads.
Looks like there is a problem this morning if you're traveling in on 24 in the Joelton area. We don't have any cameras in this area, but there is a big slowdown on the lanes heading into Nashville before the Clay Lick Road overpass area this morning, and not really sure what that is. No big congestion delays so far this morning on 24, 65, or 40. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Joan. 5:15, Nashville's Morning News. As far as your weather for today, a high of 70 degrees. Going to be sunny as well. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So we'll have to see if people will actually self-deport. And by the way, that is the Daily Dan poll. Real quick, KGB, what are the numbers so far? I know it is early, but what are people saying?
It's pretty close. 55 no to 45 yes. So This is a close one. You did good on this one. I'll give you credit.
Happens every once in a while.
I do have a clarifying question when it comes to these stipends. When they get them, how do we know they're leaving? Are they someone watching them leave?
Well, that's a great question.
How can they come? Can they come back afterwards?
I think they'll probably. I mean, if Trump administration is smart, they'll get the stipend when they arrive in their home country somehow, or they get it when they're getting on the plane. But I don't know because.
But they can always just come back. Or try to come back at least.
Well, the border is pretty locked down now. We are down to. I saw an interview with Tom Homan. I think it was yesterday. Maybe I'll pull the audio, but he looks like a dude without a care in the world. The border is secure. 99.1% of the border is secure. We've cut the people coming across by 99.1%. I think is what he said. And now he's going out and he's obviously, as we all know, getting the bad guys. So it's not as practical or possible that they'll go back to their home country and then come back because of the fact that we have now secured the border. Now, if a damn Democrat gets in, well, then who knows what is going to happen because we all know what happened under Joe Biden. Meantime, the battle over the Maryland man, I'm putting that in air quotes, by the way, friends, the Maryland man continues. You know, the MS-13 gang member who is in that El Salvador prison. I love this. I actually posted on X. Please go. Because you've got now these senators, Chris Van Hollen, I think is his name, the senator out of Maryland, who has now decided that he is going to go off all the way to El Salvador, knock on the doors of the prison, and demand to see this MS-13 gang member to make sure that he is okay. He's also demanding to speak to the El Salvadoran president, Bukele. And again, he's decided he is going to go to El Salvador.
I saw the comments of President Bukele, and I look forward to meeting with him. I've requested to meet with him. I reached out to the ambassador here to ask to meet while he's here. But I've also made clear if we can't meet here, I do intend to go to El Salvador to discuss the release of this individual who is illegally detained. A Maryland man who's the father of 3 in a notorious prison in El Salvador.
I love, first of all, the whole illegally detained. He was here illegally. Am I the only one that...
No.
Come on, man. It's amazing how they, first of all, the whole... quote, illegally detained, that's debatable. There is no debate. Dude was here in this country illegally. So it is fascinating the laws that these Democrats decide that they want to follow and acknowledge.
Also, I wonder if Senator Chris Van Hollen of Maryland ever met with Rachel Morin's family.
No. I guarantee you he did not.
So I wonder why the concern for somebody who's in the country illegally versus a woman who was a resident of his state.
They just don't care.
They don't.
And the amazing thing is that they just have no self-awareness. That's the crazy thing. You would think that somebody would say, hey, we never met with the family of Blake and Riley. We never met with the family of Rachel Morin. Are we really going to, in solidarity with the family of this MS-13 illegal alien gangbanger? That's the family that they've decided that they want to be in solidarity with. It is incredible.
And I believe the president of El Salvador will recognize why it's important to allow him to return to the United States of America, because it is absolutely unjust and illegal to have this Marylander detained one more day in a notorious prison in El Salvador. Of course, President Trump could have just said, bring him home. Of course he could have done that. But this is an administration that has lied about Mr. Abrego Garcia, right?
Wow. So if you want to start comparing lies, you absolute jackhole, we can talk about I'm awfully acidic today. We can talk about the lies that the Biden administration told for 4 years, telling us about how the border was closed and secure when clearly it wasn't. So if we want to start talking about who's telling the truth and who's been lying, oh, my Lord, let's go through that all day long. Unbelievable. Marylander. He's an El Salvadoran, not a Marylander. He's an illegal alien, not a Maryland man. But, that's what the Democrats, this is what they try to do, right? They try to, Joan, you and I have spoken about it before, and everybody knows if you're conservative and you watch these things, what do the Democrats try to do? They try to change their language to control the narrative, and that's what they're trying to do here. It is 5:22 on Nashville's Morning News. Joan, I feel a potty-mouthed Wednesday coming on, and I really need to control myself this morning.
Oh, we actually like it when you let loose. So have at it, buddy.
Let my hair down?
Yeah, do it.
Moving right along.
What hair?
Exactly.
Hey, I don't know if you heard the story about the pastor from East Tennessee, missionary in South Africa, kidnapped last week.
Have you heard the story about how that shootout went down?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, we've got it.
Oh,
it's amazing.
Goodness.
It's coming up here at 5:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Did you know you're overpaying for your health and wellness products?
With over 20 company-owned brands offering its members vitamins, supplements, wellness, and skincare products, you're able to save up to 70% off retail.
Members Nutrition can't change your life, but we can change the way you live.
527, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Joan Jones, I want to know. Oh, this is going to be fun. KGB, don't tell Joan what we were just talking about.
Uh-oh.
Don't tell her.
My lips are sealed.
Joan, can you name, this might be actually kind of a fun ongoing bit. Can you name this celebrity?
I'm so proud of me right now.
Do you know who that is,
Do
Joan?
it again.
I'm so
Do it again.
proud of me right now.
No.
I'm so proud of me right now.
Super texters, do you know who it is?
What an ego, by the way, whoever that is.
615-737-9986. Super texters, can you name this jackwagon?
I'm so proud of me right now.
Me right now.
I just like jackwagon. That's funny.
Well, you know what? I can't say the jack A word.
Yeah.
And
So you
I
just-
usually say jack hole,
Yeah.
which I actually think, you know what? I coined a phrase, jackhole, a long time ago. And, you know, when I did,
I'm so proud of me right now.
I was very proud of that. That I coined that phrase, jackhole.
You're going to keep
I'm so
that.
proud of me right now.
So, but now a guy on the super text line said, well, why don't you utilize the term jackwagon? Well, because I didn't invent the term jackwagon. I invented the term jackhole, which I'm very
I'm so proud of me right now.
proud of.
It's going to be in Webster's any day now.
Joan, are you tired of that soundbite yet?
Just a little. Yeah. Yeah.
Gayle King.
That was Gayle King.
That is Gayle
Ah.
King, who is running around
She calling herself an astronaut.
proclaiming to be an astronaut. At 5:35, I'm going to play this audio that she's like, number one, she is defining herself as an astronaut. Number two, when people say, honey, you got in, you strapped in like a roller coaster, and up you went for 11 minutes. You floated around a little bit, very cool, and then you came back down. That's what you did.
That's space tourism. That's all that is.
Absolutely.
It's a roller coaster ride.
So she says that not only is she an astronaut, but if you disagree
You're
that she's
racist.
an astronaut, well, she says sexist. She says that it is absolutely sexist if you say that she went on a ride versus calling her an astronaut.
I'm so proud of me right
There
now.
was just
we're
a
gonna-
woman stuck in space for 9 months.
Yeah.
Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams, honey, I'm just telling you, Gail Williams, Gayle King, they are astronauts.
Yeah.
You
Are a fraud.
What a self-centered, narcissistic...
I'm so proud of
yeah.
me right now.
God. Anyway, so I've got that audio. And a whole lot more straight ahead. Oh, that's good, Mario. Gayle King is an astronaut.
Cool.
All right.
Okay.
Well done.
Well done, Mario.
So close.
You know what, Mario, I keep stealing jokes from Mario. Mario, I'm putting you on notice. Very soon, I'm not going to give you credit anymore. I'm just going to steal your jokes, and then I can say...
I'm so proud of me right now.
News next on WTN.
Good morning, now 5:30. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. Some confirmation now about that accident that a super texter wrote in about a little earlier. It's 24 the eastbound lanes just before the Clay Lick Road overpass. A crash involving injuries, and traffic backs up from Whites Creek Pike up to that exit this morning. The East Tennessee pastor who was kidnapped from his missionary church in South Africa last week has been rescued. South African police working on a tip tracked him to a safe house. Well, police engaged in a shootout with his captors, killing 3 of them. Police say Pastor Josh Sullivan was in the same car as his captors who were killed while that shootout was going on. They say it's nothing short of a miracle that he survived. A federal judge has given the Trump administration 2 weeks to prove they're working to return MS-13 gang member Kilmar Abrego Garcia after he was deported to El Salvador. He was living in Maryland after entering the country illegally.
Judge Paula Sinas declaring every day Abrego Garcia spends in that prison is a day of further irreparable harm. Justice Department lawyers insisting the administration is prepared to facilitate Abrego Garcia's presence in the United States if he presents at a port of entry. But they argue they cannot compel El Salvador to release him from prison, even though the administration is paying El Salvador more than $6 million to hold him there, along with more than 200 other undocumented immigrants.
ABC's Rachel Scott reporting it was just 2 weeks ago that a Connecticut man who was held captive by his parents since he was in the 4th grade escaped. Now that man, who is 32 years old, is speaking out.
The 32-year-old man, allegedly held captive by his stepmother in his bedroom, is speaking out for the first time. In a statement, he refers to himself as S, saying, "I'm a survivor of more than 20 years of captivity and domestic abuse. I am speaking out today to begin the process of reclaiming my life and to have my say in how my story is told."
That's ABC's Rihanna Nally reporting. Stock futures are pointing down this morning. That's the latest news. We've got traffic and weather ahead. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
To financial institutions. And one of these sections, Section 10.
Again, we've got that crash on 24, the eastbound side, before Clay Lick Road overpass. And thanks to the super texter who sent us that tip. It involves injuries, this crash does. And you've got delays from Whites Creek Pike exit 35 up to the spot of that accident this morning. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
5:37. Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. People having fun on the Super Text line with a number of different things. We're talking about how I invented the word jackhole, and but I called it a phrase. And so Waylon says, Dan, jackhole is a word, not a phrase.
However, Waylon...
Have a nice day, Dan.
Yeah, Waylon also spells jack and hole in two separate words.
He does. He does do that.
Which means it's not a word, it's two words.
Boom. Look at you.
Checkmate. Sorry, Waylon.
Are you standing up for the host for a change?
Oh, no. I was just standing up to Waylon.
I was about to say, that is like a sign of the apocalypse, so it's never a good sign.
All right, so let's do this Gayle King thing, because I'm going to be honest with you. My level of give a crap on Gayle King and Katy, it's not there.
Yeah.
What has Gayle King even done in her life? Is it just being the
here's
morning
what
host?
she's only been. No. Her fame is that she was Oprah Winfrey's
best
friend.
You want to talk about riding. She's been riding Oprah's coattails for years.
Yeah, and she got that job on the morning show just because she was her friend, not because she had any talent.
Was she even a journalist? Like, what did she do before?
I think she did morning show something like in L.A. before going national.
Yeah, well, whatever. Anyway, so now Gayle King, 70 years old, and she and Katy Perry and 5 others, they go up in space. Now, I didn't really talk about this because, I mean, honestly, it's not a big deal. I mean, you get in, you strap yourself in, and up you go. So they're trying to make a big deal out of the fact that Gayle King is 70 and also that she had a fear of flying. Well, you know what? A lot of people do. Again, to me, not a huge deal. But does anyone else find it funny that people are calling Gayle King and Katy Perry and these others astronauts? Because some people do, and this is a part of an interview that she gave, Gayle King.
Gayle King, you are officially an astronaut. How do you feel?
I still can't accept that word.
Nobody else is accepting that word either. I thought actually that was pretty funny.
We were in agreement.
Yeah.
Gayle King, you are officially an astronaut. How do you feel?
I still can't accept that word.
All right, so that was in an interview that she gave right after she got off the capsule. And so she goes on and she said,
I'm so proud of me right now. I still can't believe it. I still can't believe it.
She's so proud of me right now. Okay.
It's just so weird.
So I'm watching this interview this morning, and because this story is, I think, a day or two old, right? Because, again, literally, I don't care. But they're trying to make them into some sort of heroes, and literally she is trying to call herself an astronaut.
I can't even believe what I saw. When somebody calls this a ride, this was not a ride. What happened to us was not a ride. This was a bona fide friggin' flight. And our instructor, we were so well prepared. So every noise we heard, we knew. But the flight instructor said that I am her best success story. Why? Because she's never had somebody go through the course who's terrified of flying.
Okay. So you got into a big flying piece of billion-dollar metal, right? You went up in the air. Now, don't get me wrong. That's really cool. And they got to, like, float around and stuff. All right, that's cool. But it's not an accomplishment. I mean, is it? Am I wrong on this, Joan? Is this an accomplishment?
It's, you know what it is a reflection of? That Gayle King has enough money to help her get onto an 11-minute roller coaster ride in space. Yeah. Not even space. It wasn't space. It was to the edge of space.
I was going to say, and I'm glad you said that, because they're trying to say that she went into space.
No.
No. It's like if you're going to Nashville, but you make it to, like,
Antioch,
the western part of Mount Juliet, that
Green
doesn't
Hills.
mean that you are actually in Nashville, right? It's the same kind of a thing.
Yeah. Yes.
But the other thing about this is that not only is she trying to call herself an astronaut, but then she starts, in some of these subsequent interviews, she is lecturing the rest of us here on Earth that she now has this perspective that we all need to do better.
To me, it's such a reminder about how we need to do better, be better.
What?
Do better, be better human beings.
And what do you mean by that?
Processing. Well, it's so nasty and so vitriolic nowadays. And I mean, if everybody could experience that peace that we had up there and the kindness and what it takes to do what we did.
So she went to space. So she wants us to do better and be better. How about if you mind your own business? We're doing just fine out here. She's the one that was able to use her money and her connections to go fly up into almost space.
My frozen pizza is in the oven longer than she was in space.
Good point.
It takes 18 minutes to cook my pizza. She was there for less than 12.
Touche.
Yes.
So
Sorry,
they need to like calm down. Just stop it, okay? They're being a little dramatic, I would say.
And prideful.
So number one, ego. So number one, do better, be better. All right. I would say be sure and tell that to the people on the left who can justify assassinations and are holding up villains as heroes, right? So if that is your advice to do better and be better, then why don't you tell that to Gail, your political party that you belong to? That's number one. Number two, you're not an astronaut. Now, I don't know really literally anything about astronauts, but here's what I do know. Astronauts go through years of training, very difficult training. You have to go through, obviously, years of college, wilderness survival training, water survival training, robotics training, procedure training, rehabilitations process and training, and they need to learn how to do all of those experiments that they do when they're up in space.
Aero engineering. I mean, honestly.
What
are you, Gail? You talk for a living like me, like Dan.
Well, I try. I try.
Yeah.
But Gail King says I need to do better and be better. That I would agree with on my performance as a talk show host. Anyway, it does feel like she's trying to put herself on the Butch Wilmore, Suni Williams category, and she's really not. She went up in the air, and sorry, Gail, but it was a ride. You can call it a flight if you want, but you're not an astronaut. But here's more of what she has been saying in subsequent interviews.
Eleanor Roosevelt once said, courage is doing something that scares you, but you do it anyway. And I stepped out of my comfort zone in a way that I never thought was possible for me. Mm-hmm. And now that I've done it, I really do feel I can take on anything.
You're a passenger on a flight, lady.
There's somebody in the background going, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, it just holds them up. It just makes them continue to say such lofty things about themselves.
Well, it is. As I said, you need to calm down.
I'm so proud of me right now.
So, of course, now, as you can imagine, the attacks began. So we're saying what we're saying. It's almost like half the nation, right, conservatives, half the nation, and I bet you a lot of independents and even some moderate Democrats have the opinion of this lady.
A group of rich women who went into space. Wow. Mark that under who gives a shit. These celebrities who are so disconnected from reality, I just find unbelievably annoying. And then I happened to see Katy Perry when she got off the spaceship thing, and she said, I feel so connected to love. And I thought, did you sit down and think, what is the most insufferable thing I can say? You do realize that the vast majority of people just trying to get by, all right? You're floating around in space for 11 minutes. Almost everyone else is just trying to figure out how to pay bills.
Yeah, and let's just call it almost space. I think we call it almost space.
Yeah.
And somebody said, I don't know if it was on the super text line or what, but they made this sort of comparison where just because you fly on a plane doesn't make you a pilot. It's the same thing.
Right.
And so they got to float around, cool. But now she's, really proud of herself. We all have more important things to do. But this was her comment to the critics. And this is insanity. Listen to this.
Please don't call it a ride. That is not a friggin' ride. Whenever a man goes up, you have never said to an astronaut, boy, what a ride. We duplicated the same trajectory that Alan Shepard did back in the day.
You are not Alan Shepard.
Oh, my gosh.
Did you see how I'm going to tell you.
Oh, my goodness.
Insufferable. Absolutely insufferable.
Pride goes before destruction and a haughty spirit before a fall. I mean, honestly, she's the epitome of that.
Well, and the funny thing is, she's like, nobody tells the male astronauts, like she's, again, when she made that statement, it's like she is calling herself an astronaut. But I will also tell you that all of the males that she's referring to were actual astronauts.
And did the training and the studying.
And all the stuff that I just mentioned moments ago.
There's also dozens of female astronauts that have actually went to space and been on, like, again, we talked about the one before, but like there's been plenty before.
Yeah.
In the dozen decades, there's been women astronauts.
Christy McAuliffe, that was the teacher.
Yes.
She went through the training.
Yeah. Yes.
She went through a crap ton of training.
Great point.
Yeah, so she's got to she's just got to, man.
Is it ego or just being narcissistic?
All of the above.
Yeah.
Please don't call it a ride. That is not a friggin' ride. Whenever a man goes up, you have never said to an astronaut, boy, what a ride. You know, we duplicated the same trajectory that Alan Shepard did back in the day, pretty much. No one called that a ride. It was called a flight. It was called a journey, because a ride implies that it's something frivolous or something that's lighthearted. There was nothing frivolous about what we did. And the machine that we were on, and what it took for the people to get that machine up and running, to get us up and get us back down safely.
So there you go, Gail King.
She said it wasn't joyful. They were laughing in zero gravity, all this stuff.
They were singing. Katy Perry was singing.
Yeah. It's like, it was just, you spent $150,000 on a fun 11-minute ride. Congratulations. It is a ride. Deal with it.
So what does Wikipedia say about Gail King?
I saw this and I was telling you off air, like, you got to listen to this. So basically, it's like she wrote it herself.
Okay.
So it starts with like, Gail King is an American television personality, author, and broadcast journalist for CBS News, co-hosting the flagship morning program, CBS Mornings. And before that, its predecessor, CBS This Morning. She is also an editor-at-large for the Oprah magazine. This is the best part. King was named one of Time magazine's 100 most influential people of 2019. 100 most influential people. They couldn't find... what did she do?
She's black. Well, is she gay?
No,
she's
married
married
with children.
Well, no, she got divorced, but she was married to a man.
Okay, fair enough. I got her mixed up with somebody else. Still doesn't make her. I mean, listen, whatever. If Time Magazine feels like she is influential or whatever, that's fine. But here's the thing: is that people are responding to her claims that she's an astronaut, and now she makes it worse by comparing herself to Alan Shepard.
Yes, seriously.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, real quick. We're talking about that East Tennessee pastor.
Yeah.
So the story of that shootout, I don't know if it was in your newscast or not, but in reading it, he was being kept at a safe house. And where was this?
South Africa.
South Africa. So East Tennessee pastor goes to South Africa, does what pastors do in South Africa. He ends up getting kidnapped. So they rescued him. I don't know who rescued him. Was it
the police?
The local
South African
authorities.
Police Force.
Okay,
yeah.
So our government worked with their government. He was rescued. He was sitting in a car, and they were going to transport him. And this massive shootout happens, and they end up shooting. I don't know if they were killed, but they shot 3 of his abductors,
and they were all killed.
They were all killed. He was not wounded.
He was the only one in that car who survived.
How Daily Mail even said miraculously.
Miraculous, absolutely.
He wasn't even hit.
Yep.
Well, he's a pastor. It's an act of God.
Absolutely.
Is what it is.
Yep.
So there you go. Amazing story.
Yep,
Amazing
it is.
Story.
It is.
All right. Very good. People are asking, and I'll do more of this story at 8:35 when Chris is here. But yesterday, just very quickly, we were talking about my text accident.
Oh yeah.
Oh, the recap.
I hope. Okay, so I have to kind of redo it real quick. I accidentally texted somebody. Multiple text threads are going on at once, and Amy was ignoring something that I'd accomplished, and so she said I was more annoying than Bandit, and so I thought I was texting Amy. If you didn't hear the story, I thought I was texting Amy, but I was actually texting a guy that is going to make a countertop for me, who I've never met before. And so what I texted accidentally to him was, I like to be petted.
This is the best. It's the best Drext ever.
So
makes me so happy.
A drunk text.
Drunk text.
But you weren't even drunk.
No, but in my defense, I was tired. And I was texting Chris Hand. I was texting Amy. I had another one going. And I'm texting this guy who is making a cabinet top
You would have been better off texting that to Chris instead of the random guy.
So I responded. I don't have it in front of me, but I responded, OMG, that was meant for my wife, LOL. And the only thing that he could think of texting back was, wow, period, LOL, period. So I go there. I'd never met him before. And Amy and I thought it was hilarious. And Amy and I laughed for like 10 minutes. So I finally meet this guy yesterday after the show. And the question was, Chris asked the question, did he know who you are? Who I am, whatever. No, he did not know that I was a radio host.
Close one.
And so, but I walked in and I kind of told him what happened and it meant for my wife, whatever. And so he says that they tried to get one of the workers in there to come up and pet me.
Yes.
And I show up and I don't know whether or not I should be relieved or insulted, but nobody wanted to pet me.
Hey, Dan.
I showed up and nobody wanted to pet me. Whatever.
Just one pat on the head. Just, hey,
Dan. Just something.
But
no, I
just
show up
knowing that they did that is proof that they were all laughing about it.
They thought it was
for
funny
hours.
as all get out. So. All right, 5:54, Nashville's Morning News on WTN, and Joan Jones is here with the news at 6.
So we'll tell you what newly revealed video says about the death of actor Gene Hackman and his wife. Wow, what a story this has become. That's coming up here at 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
5:58, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Welcome on into a Wednesday. Okay, so coming up in the next hour, we've got a lot to do. We got the latest on Carmelo Anthony. We also have the latest on Donald Trump and what he wants to do to get people home. He is going to begin in earnest their self-deportation initiative. That is coming up. Go to YouTube, watch us on YouTube, x997wtn.com, and Facebook. You can watch the radio show. I recommend you do it on YouTube because you can rewind it if you so choose and figure out if what I said actually made sense. So you can do that. Take the Daily Dan poll. Today's Daily Dan poll is, and it's a close one today. I get excited when the Daily Dan polls are close. So the question for today is, do you agree with President Donald Trump's plan to give illegal aliens a stipend, money, to go back to where they came from, then turn around and apply to get into our country legally? Do you agree with that? Right now, the numbers are...
Right now, 52-48 no is in the lead by literally 2 points.
So 52% disagree with Donald Trump.
Correct.
All right, got a lot more straight ahead. News with Joan Jones right now on WTN.
Good morning, 6 o'clock. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. Crews are still working on that crash scene on I-24 eastbound just after Jolton this morning. It's before the Clay Lick Road overpass and traffic is backed up behind it. You'll need a few extra minutes getting in. An internal investigation launched by Metro Nashville Police into that department's own chief, John Drake. He is accused of carrying out a romantic relationship with a fellow employee on the city's dime, according to an investigation by WSMV, which has obtained some text messages exchanged between the two. We'll have more information on this story as it becomes available. There's new video released now from the investigation into actor Gene Hackman's death. ABC's Lionel Moisey has more on the death of his wife, Betsy Arakawa, who mistakenly thought she suffered from COVID. Instead, she died from an infection transmitted by rodents.
Hantavirus causes flu-like symptoms and can lead to trouble breathing and fluid in the lungs. Documents now released by investigators show rodent activity and rodent nests were found scattered across the property, although not in the main house. Crime scene photos also reveal Arakawa had purchased products to help with respiratory issues and had canceled an appointment because of flu-like symptoms. Surveillance footage shows her wearing a mask at a CVS pharmacy in Santa Fe.
ABC's Lionel Moisey reporting there. A statewide alert has been issued for a missing Bedford County woman. 83-year-old Sarah Padgett has been missing from her home in Shelbyville since April 2nd. She may be traveling in a blue Nissan sedan. Police say she has a medical condition that may put her in danger. Still no sign of 52-year-old Raul Rubio Perez. He is wanted for the stabbing death of his estranged wife in the parking lot of a Madison school on Monday. Police are getting help from federal officials. They say Rubio Perez has ties to Miami and also to Mexico. Market numbers now brought to you by Beacon Capital Management, online at beaconcm.com.
Dow Jones on Tuesday fell 156 points to land at 40,369, while the S&P gave up 0.17% and the Nasdaq Composite slipped a fraction. A federal judge in Texas has tossed out a Biden-era rule that capped credit card late fees at $8. Judge Mark Pittman says the cap violated a 2009 law that allowed banks to set late fees proportional to violations. Reports of the death of the physical book may have been premature. After more than a decade of declining store numbers, Barnes & Noble is celebrating solid sales by opening 60 new locations nationwide. Jim Ryan, ABC News.
Stock futures are lower this morning after NVIDIA said that it'll take a $5.5 billion financial hit over restrictions on the export of its AI chips to China. The Dow Jones Industrials futures this morning are minus 56, but we've got NASDAQ futures down 271 and the S&P futures losing 40 points. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News. Looks like they may have cleared that accident this morning on 24 eastbound lanes after Joelton. Looks like the delays have also eased a bit there. We have no problems this morning coming in otherwise on 24. 40 looks great, and no problems either as you're traveling on 65. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.606 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. And welcome on in for a Wednesday. Hope you're doing well. I've got a lot to get to. Let's get right to it. Carmelo Anthony, the 17-year-old who killed Austin Metcalf in cold blood. Remember, he and his lawyers in the family have been saying that they don't have any money. Well, now it is confirmed they do have a lot of money. We talked about this a little bit yesterday, and now it's really making news this morning as well. Do you know how much his home, Carmelo Anthony, you know this, right? So Carmelo Anthony, he's black. He stabbed a white kid, Austin Metcalf, in the heart. This was at a track meet in Frisco, Texas. Well, he's now out. The judge lowered his bond from I think it was $1 million down to $250,000, whatever it was. And he is now at home under house arrest. So now we find out, because they had this Give, Send, Go account made, and so you had all these people that gave $450,000, $500,000 to Carmelo Anthony, a guy who literally stabbed a kid in cold blood. So now the home that they're renting, they had to move, they say. They had to move because he had racist threats against him. So now they need security, and they had to move. He is holed up, Carmelo Anthony, in a $900,000 rental home in Frisco, Texas. Now, I'm here to tell you, I used to live in Frisco, Texas. As a matter of fact, I lived in Dallas many, many years ago. And this home is big, even by Frisco standards. It's huge. They've got new cars in the driveway, despite the fact that his family claimed to have no money. Now, remember, again, that moronic judge lowered his bail so that he could have this nice, cushy house arrest, and he also has to wear an ankle monitor. And so the Daily Mail and others now, they are reporting on this house and the cars in the driveway, including a white Suburban, a black Acura, and a third car parked in the driveway that had a paper license plate. Again, apparently new. So obviously, they took this money and they decided to move into a highfalutin home, apparently perhaps got a new car as well, or at least that is clearly what it looks like. I mean, the father said, we have to move. And so did they move to, I don't know, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2,500 square foot house, I don't know, in Plano or Flower Mound? These are all communities in Texas. Did they maybe move out of the area, maybe down to Dallas? No. They moved to a $900,000 rental. I mean, good Lord, man. So the thing that I love about the socials is that now you do have people that are black that are speaking out on the absolute absurdity of this whole situation. Now, C.J. Pearson is black, and he's been on Fox News. He's been on Newsmax, and this is a dude, C.J. Pearson, that absolutely speaks the truth.
Now, guys, I'm going to be real with y'all. White people deserve some credit today. Because why in the hell is Carmelo Anthony, that 17-year-old murderer, walking around the streets of Texas a free man? How is that even possible? This is an animal who killed a 17-year-old boy over a damn book bag, and right now in the state of Texas, he is a free man.
Unbelievable. CJ, by the way, CJ Pearson, he is co-chair of the Republican Party Youth Advisory Council. So, again, the Daily Mail has gone around, and they've started speaking to people in this neighborhood. By the way, you know what the neighborhood is called? Richland. Of course it is. Where Carmelo lives, and he's just, hanging around, having a good old time, ordering pizza. And one of the other things that they noticed is that there's all kinds of Amazon packages that are arriving at the home. But so the neighbors are equally as disgusted as many people are that right now he is a free man.
Not only is he a free man, he is a man who is a lot more wealthier today than he was when he went into the jail cell, because the social justice warriors and BLM domestic terrorists have raised hundreds of thousands of dollars in his name, because apparently murder is excusable just because he looks like us. Yeah, that's a damn shame. It's disgusting.
Yeah, and listen, the man speaks the truth. So he had this account from Give, Send, Go. Now, what I'm trying to figure out is this the home that he was living in when the murder happened, or did he move to this home? I can't quite figure that part out yet, and I haven't seen any specifics. But either way, they were not honest with the amount of money they had, or they've taken this money and they've moved into this really big house. Either way, it's damning. So he had this account, and we've all talked about this, Give, Send, Go, and they raised somewhere around $430,000 to $450,000, probably more at this point, by the way. And the accusation is that they used this money to either rent the home, maybe buy a new car, or they weren't honest with the judge when they said how much money they had, therefore convincing the judge to lower the amount of bail.
Now imagine if the roles were reversed. Imagine if Carmelo Anthony was a white man, or actually imagine if he was a white man who was a police officer, and all of a sudden his bail was reduced heavily and he was just allowed to walk out of jail scot-free. Oh, America would be burning to the ground right now. And that's not me speculating. I know this to be true because it happened just a few years ago. When the BLM thugs didn't get their way, they set America on fire. That is exactly what happened. But you won't see that happen in this case.
Nope. CJ Pearson. Now, there's a lot of people that are out there saying that the folks at Give, Send, Go should delete the fund to help Carmelo Anthony because it is for the defense fund of a violent crime. Well, this is what they say. Heather Wilson, one of the platform's co-founders, took to social media Wednesday to defend the decision to keep the fundraiser active. She says many people believe the Give, Send, Go campaign should also be removed. But she says on social media, they defend the decision to keep the fundraiser active. She says, I wanted to share my perspective on the ongoing discussion about whether we should allow fundraising for individuals who've been charged with a crime. We're now seeing similar outrage from the right as we once did from the left when we allowed campaigns for Kyle Rittenhouse and Daniel Penny. In both of those cases, we upheld the principle that someone is presumed innocent until proven guilty. Shouldn't that same standard apply here as well? Wilson added that the founders of Give, Send, Go decided from the start that the platform would not serve as judge and jury. Now, obviously, the big difference between Daniel Penny, he was protecting people on that subway train on that fateful day in New York, and Carmelo Anthony, who, in my opinion, killed someone in cold blood. And by the way, a couple of other things about this. Have you actually thought about this crime? Because I was really thinking about what happened on that day in Frisco, Texas. And something doesn't make sense. Something doesn't jive when it comes to their self-defense defense. Something just doesn't add up. And I'm going to talk about that coming up. It is 6:15. Time to check the roads on WTN. Weather today, a high of 70 and sunny degrees. Right now, 41 at Super Talk, 99.7 WTN. So Carmelo Anthony with a K, he says that this was self-defense, right? But have you thought about this? So if Metcalf, so think about the scene. Carmelo Anthony is sitting underneath this tent that is meant for the rival school. And clearly he's doing this on purpose, right? He's doing this because he wants to be confrontational. So that's number one. The tent clearly shows Metcalf's school on it. Carmelo Anthony, I don't know if he was wearing the colors of his school or not, but he's sitting there and he's doing it to be confrontational. That's number one. Metcalf comes up and tells him to move. Anthony doesn't. Some sort of, I don't know exactly what happens, some sort of an altercation takes place. But then Metcalf is stabbed in the heart. But realize that Carmelo Anthony had the knife in his bag. So if this was self-defense, how is it that Anthony was able to go into his bag, which no doubt was sitting next to him, and he unzips his bag and probably fumbles to find the knife, and then he turns back around and stabs Metcalf in the chest? Well, if Carmelo Anthony had the opportunity to turn around, unzip his bag, fumble and find the knife, I don't know if he had a sheath on the knife or whatever, and then turn back around and stab Metcalf, that doesn't sound like self-defense to me. Does that sound like self-defense to you? No, it doesn't. Because it doesn't seem like this altercation, Anthony, I don't believe that he was under any kind of actual attack. It was a confrontation. I love this headline from Newsweek. You ready? Carmelo Anthony, Texas bond sparks MAGA anger. In other words, they're trying to say, and you heard the one of the CEOs of Give, Send, Go was also saying, well, we're hearing from the right. You know what? I'm proud to be angry at the fact that Carmelo Anthony is out on a far lower bond. Yeah, I'm proud. If that's MAGA anger, then our anger is just. And if Democrats or liberals or progressives aren't pissed off about what happened, then they need to think about what makes them angry. They need to think about their vision of what is right and what is wrong. But of course, this is the party, and this is the state of mind of a party that thinks that assassinations are okay. That it's okay, they could justify the assassination of Donald Trump or Elon Musk. We've talked about all of this. They're also trying to compare this case, Carmelo Anthony, they're trying to compare this case to Kyle Rittenhouse, who was also 17 at the time. Now, Rittenhouse, everybody knows, right? You remember the story. He is being chased at 17. He is being chased by a bunch of adults. They're trying to take his gun away. The people that were chasing Kyle Rittenhouse, obviously, they knew that he had a gun. And they still engaged with him, and they were trying to take his gun away as they were chasing him. And if I remember right, because I've seen the video 1,000 times, one of them was actually throwing something on fire at Kyle Rittenhouse. It was, I don't know if it was a Molotov cocktail or it was a piece of cardboard on fire, whatever. And one of the guys got shot and shot dead because Kyle Rittenhouse was cornered and they were trying to take his gun away. So he was literally fighting for his life. A couple of other differences. In the Kyle Rittenhouse case, it was a chaotic environment. It was clearly self-defense, and the video proved it. His $2 million bond was not reduced, and he spent 86 days in pretrial detention. Now, let's look at Carmelo Anthony. He brought a knife to a track meet. It was a calm environment. He provoked the situation because he was sitting down under the tent of the rival school. And you'll notice that Metcalf, the white kid, He didn't bring a weapon to the school. He didn't stab Carmelo Anthony. Carmelo Anthony got insulted, so he decided to kill someone. His bond was reduced to somewhere around $200,000, $250,000. He only spent 12 days in pretrial jail. And apparently the family moves into a big old new house. So, yeah, Carmelo Anthony, he decided to pull out a knife out of nowhere and stab Metcalf in the heart. And, yeah, MAGA anger out there is justified on this case. So if you see some of your liberal friends out there on social media trying to say, oh, these two cases, they're just like each other. Kyle Rittenhouse and Carmelo Anthony, they're just the same. If you were screaming about Kyle Rittenhouse, then you should have nothing to say about Carmelo Anthony. Oh, these two cases are obviously different. And if you're angry, if you're MAGA and you're angry about Carmelo Anthony, then you should be proud of that anger because it is just. 6:21, Joan Jones has the news at 6:30. Joan, what's coming up?
Yeah, more on the rescue of that East Tennessee pastor who was rescued from his kidnappers in South Africa. That's coming up here at 6:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.622, Nashville's Morning News. Guys, if you're over 40 and if you're running low on energy, maybe you're just feeling off. LowTCenter.com is where you need to go. Get started with testosterone replacement therapy, or TRT, and join lots of guys who are going through the same thing as you. Now, you know that they've got clinics all across Nashville, and they're really easy to get to. Now, you walk in, you see a real medical provider, and you get that energy back. No complicated process, just results. And remember, these treatment plans, they are tailor-made just for you. You can get treatments at the clinic or you can be treated at home. But either way, you're always going to get the highest quality of care. And right now, in the month of April, you can get a free consultation. And if you qualify, treatment is covered by most major medical insurance. So reclaim that energy and become you again. By the way, they can also help with prescription weight loss options as well. So head on over to the Low T Center, lowtcenter.com, and book your appointment today. That's lowtcenter.com. Simple, quick, and totally worth it. Super Talk 99.7 WTN 625. The spring season is upon us, and now is the time to start thinking about that outdoor lawn equipment. Now, my friends at TT McCall's, they are helping you out with their spring Cub Cadet mower sale. They do this every single year, and coming up in Cookeville at their Cookeville location, beginning on Friday, April 18th through the 26th, you can pick up a Cub Cadet lawnmower at a great price. You know that DT McCall's and Sons, they are ranked as a top Cub Cadet dealer here in America. You can find Cub Cadet riding mowers with 42 to 72-inch decks for those larger areas, as well as Cub Cadet walk-behind mowers for those smaller lots. And by the way, when you purchase a Cub Cadet mower from DT McCall's, you'll be getting access to their in-house service department as well. You know, it is nearly impossible to find mower service anywhere else, but you've got it at DT McCall's with a large selection of Cub Cadet mowers, free delivery, and an in-house service department. It really is an easy choice. You've got to check out DT McCall's and their spring Cub Cadet mower sale going on beginning April 18th through the 26th in their Cookeville location. 5 locations across Middle Tennessee: Carthage, Cookeville, Lebanon, Lafayette, Franklin. Always online, dtmccalls.com. .628, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. The Super Text line, 615-737-9986. Really active today. Thank you very much. Sally says Give, Send, Go is correct in their decision to leave up the defense fund for Carmelo Anthony. By the way, somebody on the Super Text line wanted me to make sure you folks knew that it's not Carmelo Anthony, the basketball player. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows that. First of all, Carmelo Anthony is with a C, the basketball player and the dirtbag in Texas that killed a kid in cold blood. That is spelled with a K. Also, people pointing out with the Kyle Rittenhouse situation, and I failed to mention this because it's been a minute, but one of the people that he shot, the guy that survived, was actually pointing a gun at Rittenhouse. So that is also the difference between Rittenhouse and Anthony. I'm really looking forward to 805. You know who I'm going to speak to at 805? Cannot wait. I'm going to speak to, remember Dustin KD? He came in here and he testified in front of the Tennessee State Legislature about lawsuits providing immunity for the chemical companies. Remember that a few weeks ago? And that piece of legislation was actually, it died for now in the state legislature based on what Dustin KD and others had to say about that. He is going to join us at 8:05 because there has been an alarming, crazy hike in autism rates. I mean, bizarre. Absolutely bizarre. And so we're going to talk to Dustin KD about that and also what may be going on within the Trump administration to find out the cause of autism. We'll talk about that with Dustin KD, 8:05, News Now with Joe and Jones on WTN.
Good morning, 6:30. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. Yeah, it's still slow on 24 eastbound near Joelton this morning. An earlier accident this morning, perhaps still causing some delays there. And then you've got it slow, too, on 24. The westbound lanes, Laverne up to the joinder with 40. The East Tennessee pastor who was kidnapped in South Africa last week, midway through a sermon, has been rescued in a dramatic shootout. Channel 4's Danielle Ledbetter.
A specialized unit went to a house and found the pastor in a car. Kidnappers were also in the car, and they tried to get away and then shot at police officers. Then those officers returned fire, killing 3 people, and they were able to rescue Sullivan. Police say he was miraculously unharmed and in excellent condition.
Police say his survival from that shootout was nothing short of a miracle. The motive behind the firebombing of Pennsylvania governor's mansion has now been revealed. A search warrant obtained by the news site Penn Live says that the accused man, Cody Balmer, targeted the governor in part because of his views of the war on Gaza. Balmer called 911 after allegedly ignited that fire, saying Shapiro needs to, quote, will know that he will not take part in his plans for what he wants to do to the Palestinian people. A bill has passed the State House and is up for debate in the state Senate. It bans any hemp product that exceeds the federal allowable level of THC, which is 0.3%. The owner of the Greenhouse dispensary in Nashville talked to Channel Make That News, too.
The economic impact is substantial. Consumer side, a lot of people have found relief with our company and other companies to be able to find products that are safe, legitimate, and they no longer had to rely on things off the street.
The bill could be heard on the Senate floor today. That's the latest news, traffic, and weather next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
Thank you, Joan. Dan Mandis here. Avoid the stress of preparing to sell your home with the guaranteed offer from my friends at Mark Spain Real Estate. Now, you can skip the hassle of spring cleaning and sell your home fast for maximum value. Now, don't worry about the showings, the open houses, the costly repairs. You don't have to do any of that. When you go through Mark Spain, they've got that guaranteed offer that allows you to bypass the market, receive an all-cash offer, and close within days. You can move when you want to move. Now, with Mark Spain Real Estate, how effective are they? They've got 12,500 five-star reviews, and you can trust Mark Spain Real Estate to sell your home fast with that guaranteed cash offer. Mark Spain Real Estate, they've been serving families for nearly 30 years. They've helped over 67,500 satisfied clients. So spring into action and sell your home with confidence. Find out what your guaranteed offer would be. There's no obligation. 855-299-SOLD. 855-299-SOLD. You can always find them online anytime. It is markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer on your home today. That's markspain.com and start packing. .635, Dan Mandis here. Window Nation. Now, this is my window company. I endorse these folks because they did great work for me. If you've got old and inefficient windows, it is time to upgrade with Window Nation. You know, they were ranked the highest on Forbes' list of best window installers. That's right. This is a great company. Now, they put new windows in my basement studio, my kitchen, and my bedroom. They look fantastic, and they can do the same thing for you at a great price. Right now, they've got a great deal for listeners to my show. You buy 4 windows, you're going to get 4 additional windows absolutely free. You buy 4 windows, you get 4 additional windows free, plus no payments or interest until 2027. Now, these windows are energy efficient, so not only are you saving money on the install, but on those electricity bills as well. How do I know that you're going to be happy? They've got a 96% satisfaction rating and over 20,000 five-star reviews, including mine. Now, don't forget that great deal. You buy 4 windows, you get 4 additional windows absolutely free, plus no payments or interest until 2027. Tell them you want the Dan deal at 866-90-NATION, 866-90-NATION, windownation.com.
Okay, so it looks like that accident that was previously spotted on 24 eastbound before the Clay Lick Road overpass is still there, and it is still causing some big delays this morning. It looks like it's stop-and-go traffic from New Hope Road now, exit 31, up to the site of that crash. The shoulder is blocked there. It looks like the right shoulder blocked, 24 eastbound at the Clay Lick Road overpass. Now, Belshire, it's Dickerson Pike near Old Hickory Boulevard. That's the site of another crash, and looks like things are beginning to slow down, too, on 24, even back to Smyrna area, up into the merge with 40. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.636, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk, 99.7 WTN. Welcome on in. Dan Mandis here, along with Joan Jones. KGB is producing this morning. By the way, you can watch us pretty much anywhere. YouTube, Facebook, 99.7 WTN.com. And I prefer that you watch us on YouTube. You can take the Daily Dan poll. The poll today is actually a good one and a lot of debate. President Trump made this announcement last night. He is going to be offering a stipend for illegal aliens that are here. He's going to offer them money to go back home, and then a good way for them to reapply or to apply to get into our country legally. This is what the president said. This was last night on a Spanish-speaking Fox News channel.
As you probably know, we're doing a self-deportation, and we're going to make it comfortable for people, and we're going to work with those people to come back into our country legally. We're starting it. We haven't started it right now. We're getting the murderers out. We have our total aim on the very bad ones, as you can imagine, because you have some great people that came in.
Yeah, so basically what President Trump is looking to do is he is looking to give those people some money and a plane ticket home, wherever home might be, and then they can turn around and they can reapply. And we've got like 13, 14 million people in here illegally. And so I think part of the issue that Donald Trump has is that there's so many people that are here. And as we've all said, and we've all acknowledged, we don't have the resources to get all of these people out. What we do have is the ability to get out the gangbangers, which is what, Donald Trump and Tom Homan and Kristi Noem have been doing and doing well. But now he's floated this idea of self-deportation. He is now getting into specifics.
But we have some very bad ones. We had 11,088 murderers. Half of them killed more than one person. These are rough, bad people. We want them out. And that's mostly our focus.
Yeah.
But what we want to do is we're going to have a self-deportation program, which we haven't even announced yet. I guess I'm announcing it to you. Why not, Rachel? Here it is. The only thing I haven't determined is what are we going to do? We're going to give them a stipend. We're going to give them some money and a plane ticket. And then we're going to work with them. If they're good, if we want them back in, we're going to work with them to get them back in as quickly as we can.
All right. So the question is, and I can hear you folks now, because that was my first response. My first response was, wait a minute. So you're telling me that they broke our laws, they came in here illegally, and now what we're going to do is we're going to give them money to leave? Why would we do that? And when we talked about this earlier, when we spoke about this earlier, we had a bunch of folks on the super text line saying, how do we know they're going to take that money and then leave? Well, I mean, all that clearly does have to be worked out. I kind of know what Trump is doing, by the way, but real quick, KGB, that is the Daily Dan poll. Agree or disagree with Donald Trump on stipends for illegal aliens?
Right now, no is actually getting ahead. 58% now for no to 42 yes.
So 58% of you disagree with President Donald Trump. I think part of what the president is trying to do, there's so many different layers to the tariff talk, right? So, and I'm trying not to do any of that today because I'm so burned out on tariff talk. I do have some good news regarding the tariffs coming up here in the next couple of minutes. But I think part of what Trump is trying to do is we're going to have a lot of manufacturing that is going to come back into our country. I mean, the announcements are seemingly being made every single day. So if Trump can get these illegal aliens, get them in here legally and get, actual legit Social Security numbers and start collecting taxes, then they can start working in the manufacturing industry, because there's always this conversation about how we don't have enough people to fill all of these jobs. And a couple of weeks ago, didn't we have the conversation? We did. You and I had the conversation a couple of weeks ago where I was asking the question, with all the stuff that is made in China, and the list is long. I mean, we're talking about clothing. We're talking about sneakers. We're talking about, I was specifically at the time talking about pharmaceuticals. Do we have the resources and do we have the infrastructure and the people to make all of these goods that are being made right now in China? And how do we do that? I mean, one of the questions I asked at the time, a couple of weeks ago, I think it was in an interview with Congressman Scott DesJarlais, where it's like, okay, so do we have the people? Do we have the infrastructure to do all of this? Because let's be honest. I mean, China could say in an instant, okay, no more stuff for you. It's going to take us years to be able to build up the infrastructure that China has, not to mention they've got a heck of a lot more people than we do. So I think that's part of what the president wants to do, is he wants to get these people legal so that they can actually join the workforce. But anyway, a lot of these folks are living in the shadows and so forth. But will they actually self-deport? That's number one. And number two, okay, so then how do we know they'll self-deport and not just, take the money and stay here? Again, all of that is logistical, and I'm sure that they're going to figure it out. Meantime, the battle over the Maryland man continues, this MS-13 gangbanger who is in that El Salvadoran prison. Now, earlier in the program, I was talking about this Senator Chris Van Hollen. And he is, and I think he's going to go either today or tomorrow, but he wants to speak to El Salvadoran President Bukele. And he says, if I don't get to talk to him here, if I don't get to speak to him here, then I'm going to go to El Salvador and check up on this guy.
I saw the comments of President Bukele, and I look forward to meeting with him. I've requested to meet with him. I reached out to the ambassador here to ask to meet while he's here. But I've also made clear if we can't meet here, I do intend to go to El Salvador to discuss the release of this individual who is illegally detained, a Maryland man who's the father of three in a notorious prison in El Salvador.
So can I just tell you that, number one, I don't care that he's married. I don't care that he has kids. What I care about is the fact that we've had two judges now deem this guy an MS-13 gangbanger based on our own sources and resources, human resources, that are inside that culture. And so as we covered yesterday, Bukele says that guy is going to stay in prison along with all of those other gang members. And so now everybody is saying, this is part of the narrative, right? Maryland man, this father of three, which, by the way, I'm hearing Maryland man. I'm hearing father of three. I'm hearing Marylander, which is what they call people from Maryland, I guess. You know what I hear when I hear that? I also hear in my head mostly peaceful protests. You know what I mean? Like and I mentioned this earlier in the program. What the Democrats do is they hijack the language, or they flat out lie. Mostly peaceful protests when we absolutely know that they weren't. This guy is, quote unquote, a Maryland man when he is actually an MS-13 gangbanger.
And I believe the president of El Salvador will recognize why it's important to allow him to return to the United States of America, because it is absolutely unjust and illegal to have this Marylander detained one more day in a notorious prison in El Salvador. Of course, President Trump could have just said, bring him home. Of course he could have done that. But this is an administration that has lied about Mr. Abrego Garcia, right?
Right. So just forget about the 4 years of lies that the Biden administration told us about the border. And part of the headline with this senator, Cory Booker, also is going to go, apparently, to El Salvador, to this prison, and knock on the door. But when they say that they are in solidarity with the family of this guy, this gang member, we mentioned this earlier. They never wanted to be in solidarity with the family of Laken Riley or Rachel Marin and the other families horribly impacted by these killers. Got a lot more straight ahead. I love that and I don't know if you've noticed this, Joan, but have you noticed that the Trump administration, they are really fighting. They are really fighting back against the media for trying to paint this guy as just, an innocent Maryland man, family of father of three. And they're really going after those reporters. And I've got another example coming up. This is great audio. Yes.
If they give in on this one, they have to get the media is going to bring case after case after case after case. And they try the Trump administration in the public square every single day by using this tactic. And the Trump administration knows they can't give an inch because the media will take a mile.
You're absolutely right. I've got some must-hear audio coming up. A little late for traffic, 646 on WTN. Time to check the roads. As far as your weather for today, a high of 70 degrees and sunny. Appreciate you listening to Nashville's Morning News. All right, so the Trump administration, they're fighting the media, of course. They're fighting judges as well, these progressive judges who are literally running the country, and it is so infuriating. And so part of what the Trump administration, and clearly this is intentional, where the Trump administration, they've told their spokespeople, they've told their media folks, you need to push back against these members of the media that are trying to put forward this narrative that Kilmar Abrego Garcia is simply a Maryland man, a married father of three. This was Trish McLaughlin on ABC News.
But I think what really matters to Americans is that this MS-13 gang member, who unfortunately, Jay, you and a lot of your colleagues have called a Maryland man, when in reality
I'm going to stop you there. What is your evidence, Tricia? Wait, I got to stop you there. What's your evidence that he's in MS-13?
Well, there's actually been two separate immigration judges, Jay, who have confirmed and ruled that he is a member of MS-13.
Well, that as well as we have intelligence it was brought up in deportation
they sure
proceedings.
Did, Jay.
But what's the evidence that was brought up in those deportation proceedings that he's in MS-13?
And they dismissed his appeal, Jay. I can do this all day, Jay. He is a member of MS-13. I don't think you'd want to be his neighbor, Jay. I sure wouldn't. And I don't think many Americans watching would want to be this individual's neighbor. He has been involved in human trafficking. He's been involved in labor trafficking, and he should not be in this country. So whether he's in an El Salvadorian jail or a U.S. detention facility, I am so very glad, as are millions of Americans, that he is off of U.S. streets. Because remember, Jay, who is MS-13? They maim, they rape. They kill Americans for sport, and the American people are done with it. They said so on November 5th, 2024.
Love it. Absolutely love it. They are fighting back. And coming up, I'm going to see if I have time to play it. Caroline Leavitt goes toe-to-toe against some of these folks in the White House press corps because she as well not having any of this nonsense. That must-hear audio is straight ahead right before the news. It is 6:50 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. By the way, it is Wednesday. You know what that means. Wednesdays with Wilson. Ron Wilson is going to join us at 7:06 here on Nashville's Morning News. Right now, though, Joan Jones has the 7 o'clock newscast. Joan, what's coming up?
Yeah, well, don't freak out. That's the story from the people at Waymo. They're going to be testing some of those cars, those driverless cars here in Nashville. Yeah, we've got that story coming up here at 7 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Dan Mandis here, 651. You know, it is so amazing to be able to see without glasses, thanks to my buddy Dr. Horn and all my friends at Vision for Life. Now, you know that I needed corrective surgery to treat my cataracts. I needed the surgery a long time ago. I finally did it. I researched all the local ophthalmologists. One guy kept showing up as Nashville's best. That is Dr. Jeff Horn at Vision for Life. Now, they've been doing this for 20 years now, 20 years of helping folks see with 20/20 vision or better. Now, Vision for Life has thousands of positive reviews, including mine, and they've been around for decades. You can trust them. So Dr. Horn, first time I met him, he took the time to sit down with me. He answered all my questions and all my concerns, and I did have a lot. Will it hurt? What's the recovery time? Will I need glasses? He spent 45 minutes with me, walking me through the entire process. And by the way, no, it doesn't hurt. The recovery time is really nothing. And no, I don't need glasses now, nor will I need them ever. So I love the fact that I finally got my vision corrected from Dr. Horn and Vision for Life. Check them out. Again, 20 years of providing 20/20 vision. You can schedule your consultation today. That phone number is 615-436-2020, 615-436-2020. You can find them online anytime, visionforlife.com. Dan Matt is here with a question for you, friends. If your roof was destroyed in a storm, how much of that replacement cost would your insurance company cover? Now, if you don't know, you really do need to ask. And I've been telling you about this for a long time, and my friends at King & Associates, how they do pay full replacement cost. Now, since I started doing these commercials, a lot of people have been asking their own insurance companies if they would replace their roof fully. And a lot of them apparently said no. And that's why a lot of people are now calling my friends at King & Associates Insurance. Now, what these other insurance companies are doing is that they are depreciating how much they pay for your roof claim. If you've got an older roof, they're going to pay you less, and that is going to leave you on the hook for thousands of dollars. And so now King & Associates Insurance, they are saving a lot of people a lot of money. You will feel protected when you sign on with my friends at King & Associates Insurance, because whether you have to replace a 10-year-old roof or a 2-year-old roof, they will pay for it to be replaced, period. It is that kind of focus on customer service that makes King & Associates Insurance one of the best insurance companies around. Call them at 615-329-8121, 615-329-8121. Get your royal review, tkinginsurance.com. 6:56, Nashville's Morning News on WTN. Dan Mandis here. Yesterday during the White House press briefing, Caroline Leavitt, man, she's impressive. She was clearly under attack.
I also want to thank your press office for releasing that information that you cited up there regarding the ICE arrests over the last couple of days. And I have them right here, but what I might ask is, why not release the same information for those who were deported to El Salvador?
All right, so the DHS, just a little bit of background, the DHS was releasing and has been releasing information about those that have been arrested and deported as a way to let folks know what's going on and who is being arrested and what they've done. So this NBC News reporter is stuck on these guys gone to El Salvador. Realize the difference. People that have just been deported and those that have gone to that El Salvador prison. And I'm assuming this dude from NBC is specifically talking about Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the guy mistakenly deported by the Trump administration, the guy that they keep saying, oh, he's a Maryland man, and he's also an MS-13 gang member.
Well, first of all, the information was released by the Department of Homeland Security. The individuals on the flights to El Salvador are foreign terrorists, and those are counterterrorism operations. They are much different than the arrests and final order of removals that you see on a day-to-day basis that law enforcement agents are conducting around the country.
That information was not, to that detail, was not released by DHS, though.
I just told you the reason. It was a counterterrorism operation, a deportation of foreign terrorists, not illegal criminals who have been convicted of heinous crimes living in our American communities. Two different things. Foreign terrorist, illegal immigrant criminal, two different things, two different definitions. You should look them up.
I also want to thank your press office.
Wow. I mean, I love that. You should look them up. And you can hear how frustrated she is, because she is answering these same questions over and over again. The judge in the Garcia case, by the way, is saying that the Trump administration is not complying with that judge to bring this guy back, to facilitate this guy coming back from the El Salvador prison. But again, it's in the hands of El Salvador's president, Bukele. Listen to how this reporter, though, frames the question. Again, Caroline Leavitt under attack by the White House press corps. And listen to how Caroline Leavitt, at the beginning of this soundbite, I love this, how she says hi to the reporter.
Hi. How concerned is the president that a federal judge could hold a Trump administration official in contempt of court for defying deportation orders?
We are complying with all court orders. So I see what you're trying to do there with that question, but we're very confident that every action taken by this administration is within the confines of the law, and we continue to comply with the court's orders. And you have seen that, and the president made that clear yesterday in the Oval Office with President Bukele.
It is fascinating because the hits, really, they just keep on coming. Now you've got senators that are going to be flying to El Salvador, knocking on the prison door, wanting to see this Abrego Garcia. And the media, they're just on this, and it is stunning to me that they just won't stop when the reality is that we've got so much going on in this country, and this MS-13 gang member really is the latest cause celeb for Democrats and the media. 7 o'clock on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Good morning, 7 o'clock now. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. Got to watch yourself on 24, the westbound lanes. The left shoulder is blocked off on 24 westbound just past the Blue Hole Road overpass. That's a crash there, and traffic is stop and go from Sam Ridley up to that spot this morning. Pretty slow, too. President Trump has promised to protect the nation's farmers, encouraging them to just hold on as he negotiates new trade deals with countries around the globe.
From the heartland, a call for patience. China is a major consumer of American beef and soybeans, but this Iowa farmer says Trump's tariffs could bring a more fair market in the long term.
We're people that put crops in the ground and wait 4 months for something to happen. So we're kind of learned to be patient.
The Trump administration says it is actively considering 15 tariff deals with different countries to help bring jobs and revenue back to the U.S. As for China, the White House says the ball's in their court.
ABC's Christiane Cordero. China, in fact, has halted deliveries of Boeing jets as part of its tit-for-tat trade war. Waymo plans to test its self-driving cars on the streets of Nashville, putting 10 cars now on the most complex streets, including highways, to get them familiar with traffic flow. So News 2 asked this visitor from Michigan if she would get into one of those rideshare cars.
No.
Why?
Because you can't have control of it. And with your guys' roads here, they're wild.
Yeah, she must have been on Broadway. Waymo is already available in Los Angeles and Austin. The company is hoping if all goes well, they'll launch here too. Tennessee legislators have passed a bill that increases the amount of time school kids spend on the playground. That bill mandates schools provide at least 40 minutes of recess each day. Right now, the state minimum is 15 minutes. Republicans in the state Senate are looking to trim Governor Lee's near $60 billion budget proposal by almost $180 million.
If passed, gone will be $60 million Lee had earmarked for a starter home fund meant to benefit first-time homebuyers and ease the housing crisis here in Tennessee. The nearly $125 million Governor Lee wanted to set aside to help preserve the Duck River, that would be slashed by nearly $90 million, and several faith-based nonprofits favored by the governor would either get cut way back or flat out eliminated.
That's Channel 4's Stacey Cameron. Now, it's not clear how the state house will handle those cuts. Both chambers hope to vote on a budget as early as today. 3 Big Lots stores in the mid-state have reopened. The new owners saying that they've opened the stores on Nashville Pike in Gallatin, Dixon Plaza Drive in Dixon, and South Riverside Drive in Clarksville. And they'll be opening more during a second wave next month. Big Lots fell into bankruptcy at the end of last year and was taken over by another discount retail owner. Market numbers brought to you by Beacon Capital Management, online at beaconcm.com. We've got some big losses on the NASDAQ futures this morning. They're down 268. But on the futures, the Dow futures, things are down 46, and the S&P futures losing 41 points. That's the latest news, traffic, and weather next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News. Yeah, crews are working on that crash scene on 24, the westbound side at the Blue Hole Road overpass, just past that, and the left shoulder remains blocked off there. 24 westbound also at the Waldron Road exit, number 64. It's a crash in the HOV lanes, and that's blocked off. Dickerson Pike in Bellshire at Old Hickory Boulevard. That is also the scene of a crash, and looks like 840 slows down in a number of spots this morning, all the way from 24 through 40 this morning. It's stop and go in different spots. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.707 Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. How are your friends? Along with Joan Jones, KGB producing, Jeff Malinoff. Brian Wilson is joining us here on WTN. Brian, always great to have you on Wednesdays and when appropriate. Brian, let me ask you a question.
Okay.
I spent the last segment talking about how I really like how the Trump administration is playing offense when it comes to this guy from Maryland, MS-13 gang member. And I don't know if I've ever seen an instance where interviews end up almost as shouting matches. They had, I just played audio earlier from an ABC interview, and I like how the Trump administration is being unusually aggressive in getting the message across of who this guy is.
Well, first of all, Caroline Leavitt, is she something or what?
Oh, she's amazing.
Oh, amazing. She's so good, so strong, such a great spokesperson for this administration. And she will not broker any nonsense. I don't mean to be rude when I say this, because I was once one of those guys in the press room, and you're supposed to ask tough questions, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I just want to let people know one little thing about reporters. Some of them are just not very bright. And I don't mean to be rude about that, but you would be, some reporters get hired for things other than their intellect. Let's put it that way.
You would think, though, that, this is covering the White House.
Yeah.
How can that possibly be?
You would think.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, that is the case. And I'm there is a group think that goes on among reporters. They all sort of, know each other and hang out together. And quite frankly, that White House press room, where all the reporters hang out during the day, used to be a swimming pool. Now it's the press room. They just sort of feed on each other, and they just, I've come in from things that I thought, well, that's a pretty good event, and then I hear these people just trash it, and I go, did we go to the same event? I mean, honestly, I was just there, but I don't quite see it the way you saw it, and I'm amazed by that. But there is a groupthink that takes over, and
it sounds very. It sounds very, Brian, if I may, it sounds very cliquey, like high school.
Yeah, it is. It is very much that, and it's a miserable place to hang out. First of all, if you have a booth, and a lot of people who go there don't have a booth, but we used to have a little booth in the basement, and it was about the size of a walk-in closet, a small walk-in closet. And, you just go stark raving mad in that environment. But yeah, listen, I love the fact that they're pushing back. And the Maryland man story, and Chris Van Hollen, I've known Chris Van Hollen since he was a county level politician when I first got to Washington many, many years ago. He then went to the House and now serves in the Senate. I've always thought he was an okay guy on a personal level, but his politics are very liberal, and he represents a state where Democrats outnumber Republicans 3-1. So this is probably playing really well in Maryland. But he's off base here, if for some reason he gets to El Salvador and gets this guy released and tries to bring him back, I hope the Trump administration meets them there on the tarmac and says, nope, it ain't going to happen.
Well, and if he comes back, they're just going to send him to another country.
That's right.
All right. So I got two questions in one soundbite. I want to play you some audio, audio KGB. This is Joe Biden yesterday.
Folks, imagine the panic that causes. If you're a retiree living alone, with only Social Security to depend upon. So now people are overwhelming the phone lines.
So that is Joe Biden saying that the Republicans want to cut Social Security and all of that nonsense that they constantly accuse Donald Trump and the Republicans of wanting to do. And, of course, we know that we don't want to cut Social Security. We don't want to cut Medicaid. We don't want to cut Medicare.
I don't know how many times they can say it from the podium there that they have no intentions of slashing Medicare or Social Security. It would be insane for them to do that. And yet it's not just, Joe Biden. I saw Hakeem Jeffries doing a big interview where he talked about the very same thing, how they're out to slash and grab. And it is fear-mongering among old people who truly depend on that money. I mean, they live for that check dropping every month. And they live on a very meager basis. And anytime you start talking about they're going to take away your Social Security, it unnecessarily frightens these people. I think it's an evil act. I really do. I don't use that word very often. But when Democrats do that, they are being evil. They are placing in the minds of people in this country that something is going to happen that is not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. It will never be touched. I think that Trump has some ideas about, not taxing Social Security income and that kind of thing, which would be really good for people who are retirees, people like me. And
yes,
but I'm telling you, it is just an act of evil to stir these people up and to make them fear. And it's one of they've been doing it forever.
Yeah, they have.
And I'm just it is just I wish that that people would get called out on that more, because it's an act that is preys upon old people in a way that I think is nearly criminal.
Why? Can I ask this question? Okay, so Joe Biden, everybody acknowledges that Joe Biden at this point now, what do we know about Joe Biden? Joe Biden was not fit for office. There were so many Democrats who covered for him. There were so many members of the media that covered for Joe Biden as well. And all of these books, Brian, are now being written about how that entire administration was engaged in covering up what really was or not happening in Joe Biden's brain. And so I don't even know, why has he come out of literal hibernation? Like, why is he here? I'm gonna get that coming up next, Brian. I've got to check the traffic real quick. Then we're going to talk about Joe Biden, who, by the way, he sounds terrible. Details straight ahead. Time to check the roads on WTN. As far as your weather today, a high of 70 and sunny. Thanks for listening to Nashville's Morning News. Brian Wilson joins us. Of course, Brian, why is Joe Biden making an appearance?
I don't know. I think maybe he just feels he wants to go out there and sort of change the narrative, but it doesn't work. It's really a mistake for him to come out, quite frankly. All it does, and Democrats don't like it, believe me, a lot of Democrats said, Joe, no, don't do this. Don't do this. You're not helping at all. Because all it does is allow Americans to compare and contrast the past president with the current one. And it's not a good comparison for the Democrats. And I think there are a lot of Democrats who are just quietly saying, oh, Joe, no, just quietly go off into retirement. Go to the beach and take a nap, whatever you do in your daily life. It's a bad move for Democrats and a bad move for him. And all it does is remind us how vibrant and alive our current president is and how bad it was back in the Biden days. And these books that are coming out it's like, are we shocked? Are you stunned and amazed to find out that Joe Biden didn't have his act together? I'm certainly not. But you got to say that there is, again, I think something that borders on criminal activity when you have all these Democrats who are out there defending him when they knew full well he wasn't up to it.
Well, I think part of all these books is the media trying to regain and rebuild their credibility because they were the ones when Republicans were, Jake Tapper is a great example, where Republicans have been saying, I mean, you and I, Brian, were saying for years Joe Biden was not fit for office. Now they're coming out and they're saying, oh, well, there was a big cover-up. There was no cover-up. They were gaslighting the American people.
It was
silly.
Evident to anyone who looked.
It was evident to anyone who was barely looking. I mean, you know what I mean? All right, real quick. NPR and Trump thinking about cutting funding for NPR. I think Doge is involved, whatever. But, I mean, conservatives have been calling for the defunding of NPR for a long time. Do you think it's actually finally going to happen?
I do. I do think it's going to happen. We're talking about, according to the stories that I read this morning, $9 billion that they could claw back. NPR, to me, has...
It's a racket, man. It's a racket.
It is a racket, and it is left-leaning state media, and it needs to be done away with. I mean, if you want to be out there, NPR, be out there, but get your funding from the public, not from the government. And when I say the government, we are, that is taxpayers. But I mean, find your supporters and have them pay for it. If it's true that, only a small amount of money that we use to operate comes from the federal government, then okay. Why can't you raise another 5%?
That's exactly right. I mean, they certainly have the means to do it. And they are the ones that keep saying, well, it's only a small amount. It's only a small amount. Well, then there should be no problem.
There should be no problem at all, and you should be able to raise that. Or here's a novel concept, cut your budget by 5%.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a lot of ways to solve that. What do we do in our broadcasting world when things get tight?
Oh, we know.
We cut.
Yes.
And we make adjustments. That is what it is to be in. And I don't think it should ever have existed. The government ought not be in the business of television and radio.
No, absolutely not. All right, we've got about 90 seconds left, Brian. Let me ask you, you touched on Trump and he has been all over the place. There are some days where he gives a press conference, then he's got some executive orders to sign, then he talks to the media after the executive orders. I mean, in all your time covering Washington, D.C., I believe it's safe to say that we've never had as transparent a president. I mean, he has upped even his first administration in the transparency.
Well, Bill Maher sat down and had dinner with him and had some very flattering things to say. I'm slowly coming to the opinion that we're seeing a changed man in Donald Trump in some ways. I mean, he's still Donald Trump in all the ways that we all love on the conservative side of the equation. But I think that incident where he nearly got killed, I think it made him a more introspective and maybe even a more compassionate individual. I don't know, but there was something that changed in him. And Bill Maher said, hey, I had dinner with the guy, and all of the things that, I've always said that I didn't like about Donald Trump, I didn't see any of that on display. And I have heard this time and time and time again. There is, I don't know if I want to use the word softer, but it did change him in a way that I think is good. And look, I'm just thrilled. Every day I come in and I watch what's going on in the White House and the ideas that they have. And I am saying, man, it's been long overdue. The problem is everybody in Washington hates change. Nobody really likes change, and I think it's just something that's very human. People don't like change, but we're going through a major reset, and I like where we're headed. We just need to be patient and give it enough time to come to full fruition.
Brian, you'd mentioned Bill Maher, and I played a bunch of audio from that monologue. I want to play.
Wasn't that interesting?
It was. I love this piece of audio.
at one point, we were walking through it is an amazing tour of the whole house. And I don't remember exactly what we were talking about, but it must have been something with the 2020 election, because I know he used the word lost. And I distinctly remember saying, wow, I never thought I'd hear you say that. He didn't get mad. He's much more self-aware than he lets on in public. Look, I get it. It doesn't matter who he is at a private dinner with a comedian. It matters who he is on the world stage. I'm just taking as a positive that this person exists, because everything I've ever not liked about him was, I swear to God, absent, at least on this night with this guy. Bob, Kid Rock, told me the night before, he said, if you want to get a word in edgewise, you're going to have to cut him off. He'll just go on. Not at all. I've had so many conversations with prominent people who are much less connected, people who don't look you in the eye, people who don't really listen because they just want to get to their next thing, people whose response to things you say just doesn't track, like, what? None of that with him. And he mostly steered the conversation to, what do you think about this? I know, your mind is blown, so's mine.
So I think one of the things that Mars said is, I don't know why he seems so Trumpian when he's out in public, but in private, that guy is a completely different person. I think Donald Trump's, and I've only got 30 seconds, Brian, but I think Donald Trump's unpredictability is by design, because that keeps our enemies on their toes.
You're exactly right. And I have a good personal friend who did some work at the White House and was in the Oval Office in the first term. And he told me the same thing. You see, the sort of bombastic Trump that is out there sometimes, he's very different apparently in person, and really knows how to connect with people. So I was not completely surprised by that, but I think it's even changed more in that direction since the assassination attempts.
Thanks to the Wellness Institute of Nashville for making our visit with Brian possible. And Brian, we'll talk to you next week unless news breaks.
Okay.
All right, 7:23, Nashville's Morning News. Joan is in the WTN newsroom. Hey, Joan.
Hey there. So we'll talk about the dramatic rescue of a kidnapped pastor from East Tennessee coming up here. Also, the first media appearance for that Connecticut man held captive by his parents for more than 20 years. Those stories coming up here at 7:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Dan Mandis here, the Wellness Institute of Nashville. Listen, if you have been sidelined with chronic back, neck, and knee pain, check out my friends at the Wellness Institute of Nashville and Dr. Kevin Mitchell. I've been a client of his for over 10 years. And friends, I have never felt better. Now, I arrived in Tennessee over a decade ago, and I did go through some spinal decompression therapy with Dr. Mitch for my chronic back and neck pain, and it really did help. And every once in a while, I do need an adjustment, and Dr. Mitch, he does fix me right up. Now, right now, at the Wellness Institute of Nashville, a great deal. They are offering you the Big 47 offer in honor of our 47th president, 47% off spinal decompression therapy. Now, they do utilize the highest high-tech equipment in their state-of-the-art facility to provide effective non-surgical solutions. Dr. Mitchell and Dr. Ashley, both committed to helping you overcome your back, neck, and knee pain. So call them today at 615-246-5009. Painisbad.com is the website. And take advantage of the Big 47 offer, 47% off non-surgical spinal decompression. And I put my seal of approval on that deal. 726. You've probably been looking for cars and you see the words buy here, pay here, and it does make you think, that's not a place I want to go. And I get it. Most of these dealers have really bad reputations. Well, I'm here to tell you there is one place you can go. Nolensville Road Auto Mart. Now, they're different for a few simple reasons. You know, they've been doing business in Nashville for 61 years. They're Nashville natives that only sell clean title cars under $12,000. Now, if you're new to town, you need a place to trust. This is the place you can go. If you need a first car, maybe for a 16-year-old, well, they can do that too. Now, you don't even need to take my word for it. The Google reviews on these folks are excellent, and that's saying something for a car dealership. One location on Nolensville Road, close to Thompson Lane. They'll get you in and out in an hour or less. And the best part, they are the oldest buy here, pay here in Nashville, and they work with your own financing if you have it. Flexibility, transparency, and honesty. That is why I recommend Nolensville Road Auto Mart. You can find them online. It is automartcars.com, automartcars.com. News with Joan Jones is coming up. Hey, I cannot wait until 8:05. Going to speak with Dustin KD. Of course, you know Dustin, environmental and agricultural lawyer, and he's going to be with us. You may have seen that report yesterday. Amazing, horrifying increases in autism levels across the country. He's going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that and a whole lot more. New York AG Letitia James, you know, the one, no one is above the law, when she was talking about Donald Trump. Well, it sounds like she has been breaking the law. Details straight ahead on WTN.
Good morning, now 7:30. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. On 40, the westbound lanes this morning at Lebanon, Murfreesboro Road, exit 238. Watch, there's a crash there, pretty slow behind it as well. We'll have more in traffic coming up. The East Tennessee pastor who was kidnapped from his missionary church in South Africa last week has now been rescued. South African police, working on a tip, tracked him to a safe house, and then they engaged in a shootout with his captors. They were all in a car. 3 of the captors were killed. Police say Pastor Josh Sullivan was in the same car. And they say it's nothing short of a miracle that he survived that shootout. A federal judge has given the Trump administration 2 weeks to prove that they're working to return MS-13 gang member Kilmar Abrego Garcia after he was deported to El Salvador. He was living in Maryland after entering the country illegally.
Judge Policinas declaring every day Abrego Garcia spends in that prison is a day of further irreparable harm. Justice Department lawyers insisting the administration is prepared to facilitate Abrego Garcia's presence in the United States if he presents at a port of entry. But they argue they cannot compel El Salvador to release him from prison, even though the administration is paying El Salvador more than $6 million to hold him there, along with more than 200 other undocumented immigrants.
That's ABC's Rachel Scott. It was just weeks ago that a Connecticut man who was held captive by his parents since he was in the 4th grade escaped his bedroom. Well, now that man, who's 32 years old, is speaking out.
The 32-year-old man, allegedly held captive by his stepmother in his bedroom, is speaking out for the first time. In a statement, he refers to himself as S, saying, "I'm a survivor of more than 20 years of captivity and domestic abuse. I am speaking out today to begin the process of reclaiming my life and to have my say in how my story is told."
That's ABC's Rhiannon Alley reporting. Now we're here ahead of the opening bell. We've just learned that retail sales increased 1.4% in March, a little more than expected. And so stock futures, well, they should have been on the rise, but they're still in the minus column this morning. Dow futures down 45, NASDAQ futures down 268, and we've got the S&P futures slumping 42 points. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
Thank you, Joan. 7:32 on WTN. Dan Mandis here from my carpet cleaning company, Zero Res. Now, I've been a client for years and years. One big reason is they really do help my allergies. Now, carpet is the #1 air filter inside your home. Now, it filters out airborne particulates, pollen, bacteria. You name it, Zero Res is going to filter out the bad stuff so that you can keep your filter clean, your carpet. Now, Zero Res does this better than anyone. They don't use any harsh chemicals. They don't use any harsh soaps either. Just powered water that leaves behind soft and fluffy carpets. Now, remember, a clean filter means a healthier home. And here in allergy season, that is critical for you and your family. Now, you know that it's Zero Res, and I'm very proud of this because I've been repping them for a long time. But you know that they haven't raised their prices in years, and every month a new offer to save you money. Now, this month, 2 rooms of carpets cleaned, just $109, and they're going to give you a free hallway as well. Let me repeat that. 2 rooms of carpets cleaned for just $109, plus you get the hallway for free, and you get a 25% discount off of area rugs. Restrictions may apply. Call them. Tell them Dan told you to reach out. 615-535-9376, 615-535-9376. Book online, ZeroResNashville.com. Dan Mandis here for my friends at Clayton Homes. Now, they are in the middle of a big home sales event that is going on right now. It is the Go Big and Go Home sales event, exclusively from Clayton Homes. Now, Clayton Homes, they are changing the way homes are built. These are affordable homes, and they do cost less to live in. They use quality products from the world's most trusted brands, and they come equipped with energy smart features for year-round comfort and, yes, a lifetime of savings. Now, if you already live in a manufactured or a mobile home, you can actually use that as your down payment on a new Clayton home. Clayton Homes and Freedom Homes, they are here to answer all your questions with multiple options, floor plan, and features as well. If you don't know where to start with Clayton Homes, Check them out and gobigandgohomesales.com. That is gobigandgohomesale.com, and get all the information you need and go home. Sales price is for the home only and does not include required taxes, delivery, and installation. Installed price will be higher. Contact your local retailer for complete sales price information and for a list of eligible homes. Discount may not be available on all models, may not be combined with any other offer or promotion. Sales event ends 4/30/25.
Okay, it's a crash on 40 westbound at Lebanon Murfreesboro Road, exit 238. Also a crash on 840 in the northbound lanes before Couchville Pike, exit 67. That one is looks like it's causing a pretty big backup. And then another 840 westbound before Veterans Parkway, exit 50, and stop-and-go traffic from exit 53 up to that spot. Paytonsville, 840 westbound past Paytonsville Trinity Road, exit 34. There's another crash scene this morning. And then you've got a crash at Hobson Pike and Smith Springs Parkway in Priest Lake. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.737, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I love this story about Letitia James. New York Attorney General Letitia James, of course, you know her big quote has always been, Joan, you weren't here when Letitia James was in the news, but I believe that Letitia James is just plain weird. Like the way that she speaks and her absolute red-hot hatred for Donald Trump. Remember that she is the New York Attorney General that went after Donald Trump for, if I remember right, and I'm trying to remember now, basically the accusation was that he inflated the worth of his
value.
The value. Thank you, Joan. The value or the worth of his properties so that he could get more favorable loans. Remember all that? And so, and everybody said that everybody made money on the deals and everybody was happy with the deals. Anyway, so this was from back when all of this was going on.
It's important that attorneys general representing our respective states stand up and enforce the rule of law. The president of these United States is not above the law.
No matter how rich, powerful, or politically connected you are, everyone must play by the same rules.
Please sue him for us. Oh, we're going to definitely sue him. We're going to be a real pain in the
Yeah, so she literally ran on going after and suing Donald Trump. And so she went after Donald Trump for, among other things, lying to financial institutions. Well, guess what? Now she is being investigated by the Trump administration and the Attorney General's office for doing the same thing. Now, you're going to have a lot of people that are going to say, oh, Trump is going after his political enemies. No, he's not. If she's an attorney general and she's breaking the law, then she has to be held accountable. But you know what's crazy about this story is that the things that she lied about are so obvious, and she did it over many, many years. And so here's what she's accused of doing. In documents obtained by Fox News, they are now, the Federal Housing Finance Agency has now sent a criminal referral to the Department of Justice accusing James of mortgage fraud. Apparently what she did was she bought a house in Virginia, and she said that this was going to be her primary residence. Well, the problem is she is the Attorney General for, yes, New York. So how are you going to have Virginia as your your primary residence if you are the attorney general in New York and you're prosecuting Donald Trump? Inquiring minds want to know. So that was number one. There's also a property that she has that she bought way, way back in the 1980s. And she bought it, I guess her father co-signed for the loan. But she listed her father as her husband. Apparently, I guess, to get some sort of a better deal. And this was something that happened both in 1983 and the year 2000. So this was over decades. The New York Post reported that the documents show that the property in question, purchased with her father, had both parties listed as husband and wife in 1983 and the year 2000. So yeah, clearly, if this is something the attorney general for a big state like New York, if she broke the law and is breaking the law, then I will quote right back to Letitia James, no one is above the law. Because how many times did she say, no one is above the law? She has a really weird way of speaking. And it bugged me for like months. Jonathan Turley was on Fox News with Laura Ingraham, and this is his analysis.
Well, obviously, the irony is perfectly crushing. This is a person who prosecuted Trump for everything short of ripping a label off a mattress. And among the charges that were brought in New York, in not just the civil but the criminal case, was making false or misleading statements to financial institutions.
Yeah, and that is exactly what she charged Donald Trump with. FHFA Director William Pulte said in a letter to Attorney General Pam Bondi that Letitia James appears to have falsified records in order to meet certain lending requirements and receive favorable loan terms. Pulte cited that property in Virginia that James allegedly claimed as her principal residence and a property in New York that she claimed as a 4-unit structure instead of 5, which he said could mean she was able to get a different and more favorable loan. He explained that the Trump administration is saying this was not her principal residence because as a New York elected official, she has to say her principal residence is in New York. James is also accused of stating that her father is her husband in order to file as a married couple. The New York Post reporting that the documents show that the property James purchased with her father had both properties listed as husband and wife, both in 1983 and 2000. So there's no, I mean, it doesn't sound to me, Joan, like there's any gray area here.
Absolutely not.
I mean, with the Trump thing, it was like, oh, he overvalued his properties. And then you had all these real estate people come out and say he absolutely did not.
And the valuation that they applied to it was severely undervalued.
What did they say? Mar-a-Lago was worth like, I don't know what it was, $7-8 million.
Yeah.
And people are like, no, that thing's worth like $55 million.
There's gold on the walls. Come on.
Yes, you're right. I forgot about the gold on the walls.
Seriously.
So anyway, I don't know what's going to happen to Letitia James, but do you know that so far this year, she has spearheaded at least 5 legal actions against the Trump administration? Like literally her entire life, her entire career is wrapped up in Donald Trump. They say the 5 legal actions against the Trump administration, including leading a coalition of state attorneys general to sue the federal government to halt DOJ's access to the Treasury Department's internal systems, as well as another lawsuit related to the Trump administration slashing grant funding to research institutions and universities. So she is one of those that is behind all of these lawsuits that we're having to deal with as conservatives and wishing that Donald Trump could just get on with the policies that we all voted for last year. So anyway, we'll keep you updated on what happens with Letitia James. Letitia, no one is above the law, James. It is 7:45. Time to check the roads on WTN. All righty, 746, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Appreciate you listening. There is some state news that I do want to get to. Speaker of the House, Cameron Sexton. Of course, you all know him. He's been on here many times. He was on with WTN's Matt Murphy yesterday, and they were talking about a whole bunch of things that are going through the state legislature right now as this current term comes to an end, including the challenge to Plyer versus Doe, the Supreme Court decision from 1982 that mandates illegal alien kids get a free education. Remember, in the state of Tennessee now, the state legislature, they want to pass this bill that would mean the individual school districts, they can be the ones to decide whether or not they will educate these illegal alien kids or will they charge them a fee to teach their kids. This is what the Speaker of the House said about that.
Well, the value is having the Supreme Court take up the case and reevaluate that decision, which has been, 40, 50 years. And so, but what you also have to do, Matt, is make sure that this piece of legislation will get to the Supreme Court and have the Supreme Court take it up. If the Supreme Court doesn't take it up, then this piece of legislation didn't do what it was designed to do, which is to challenge that court case.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of drama with this bill, but I think it is fair to ask whether or not, given how badly illegal immigration has impacted our schools, that we as a nation talk about whether we should continue to do these things. It's House Bill HB 793, Senate Bill 836, would authorize public school districts and public charter schools to refuse to enroll students who are here illegally or charge them what could be defined as a fine or just charge them money for the education. Now, constitutionally, critics say it is an assault on the rights of all kids to a free education as mandated by the Supreme Court. This will obviously be challenged and so forth. And you did just hear Speaker of the Tennessee House, Cameron Sexton. The whole point, and when I said this, we've all been saying this, the whole point is to get this in front of the Supreme Court. Because, listen, times do change. So we'll have to see if that ultimately gets all the way to the Supreme Court. Don't know about Amy Coney Bryant. I don't know about her. We'll save that rant for another day. Here's the other part about that. We talked about this. I think we actually took, we did. We took calls on this too. And there are a lot of people, although all the calls that I took were people saying that they approved of this, I did have some people reach out to me, and part of what they said, and I agree that this is a legit part of the conversation, where they said, okay, but you got these kids that are here anyway. And if you refuse to educate them, or if you're going to charge the parents a fine or a fee to educate them, and the parents can't afford it, refuse to pay whatever it is, well, then here's the thing. Then here's what's going to happen, is these kids are going to be uneducated, and they're going to be running the streets, and they're going to ultimately end up submitting to a life of crime. So why would we do that? Because all we're now doing is we are leading them to a life of crime as opposed to them becoming productive members of society. A very, very valid argument on the other side. Also, remember that big conversation we had about recess and extending recess? Well, that is now passed. Congratulations to State Rep Scott Sapicki. That bill to get kids more recess has now indeed passed. I think this happened yesterday. He was on the show a few days ago, and he spoke about why this is necessary, and it does make sense.
Key component we've been missing is addressing the child's ability to reset their mind, get outside, go play, get out in the fresh air, and run around. And one of the things that there are some districts and some schools in the state of Tennessee that have a couple years ago have already shifted to more recess time in elementary. And those things that I talked about earlier about the social skills, the mental health issues, the discipline problems dropping, and better academic scores are starting to reveal themselves to where these schools, these elementary schools, are starting to become some of our best in the state of Tennessee. So why not incorporate that across the whole state?
Yeah, and you had some, folks that were concerned that it was going to take away from math and reading and science and all that. But what Picky said, and it makes sense, is that it's all about time management. And it's not always about the quantity of time inside the classroom, but also the quality.
We found that instead of spending 150 minutes on reading every day or 100 minutes on math, they scale those back, get the kids outside, and instead of having this quantity of time educating, the teachers are finding that the quality of time have gone up to where they're not needing the same that long amounts of time to get better academic results.
So now the kids in Tennessee will have, I think it's 40 minutes of recess time, mandated recess time per day, and I think that makes a lot of sense. 7:52 on Nashville's Morning News. Joan Jones is in the WTN newsroom. Joan, I got to tell you, every day I think on Nashville's Morning News, we need a mandated, what do you think, 15, 25 minutes of recess time?
I like
during
it.
the show?
Yeah.
You think so?
Yeah, we can go hang out on the smoking veranda.
Sure, that's what we'll do.
Fantastic.
All right. There's something about vapes going on in the state of Tennessee, too. I'm not exactly sure what that is. I'm not a vapor. Are you a vapor?
Not a vapor.
KGB, you a vapor?
I've never smoked in my life.
Not once?
Not even
not even the
weed.
devil's lettuce?
Nope.
Wow.
I was straight edge growing up.
Okay, very well. There's still time to corrupt you. I'm totally kidding.
And Dan's just the guy to do it.
Oh, I'm definitely not the guy to do it.
He's a terrible influence on
Listen,
me.
if I'm going to be that kind of an influence on anybody, I think that person is going to be safe. All right, Joan, what's coming up?
Hey, we'll tell you what the newly revealed videos say about the death of actor Gene Hackman and his wife. Pretty startling, too. That and more coming up here at 8 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
$7:53, wedding season is approaching. By the way, so is bathing suit season. Now, if you're a bride, a bridesmaid, a groom, a groomsman, or you're worried about how you're going to look in a bathing suit, well, my friends at Contours can help you. Now, if you're not exactly confident about looking your best, Contours Med Spa in Cool Springs, yes, they can help you. Their red light technology is going to help you lose 2 inches across the belly on that first treatment. That is guaranteed. Now, if you're not happy, you're not going to pay. And right now, your first treatment is only $99 right now when you call this phone number, 615-236-9960, 615-236-9960. First 10 callers right now get that first treatment for just $99. That, by the way, is usually a $600 value. So whether it is a tux, maybe a bathing suit, maybe a wedding dress that you're trying to slide into, Contours Med Spa in Cool Springs, they've been helping folks look better and feel more confident with their ultra slim technology. It is FDA approved. It is incredibly unique, and one of the only places in Tennessee that offers red light technology is Contours. This is for both guys and girls, and so call right now. First 10 callers get that Belly Buster special for just $99. Usually a $600 value. Call them like right now. They're standing by. 615-236-9960, 615-236-9960. Dan Mandis here for Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. Listen, spring rebate madness is upon us from Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. Listen to these rebates. A mini split 17 SEER or heat pump 17 SEER, that is an $800 rebate. Heat pumps 15 and 16 SEER, that's going to get you a $500 rebate. Duct sealing or repair, that is a $300 rebate. So many ways to save with my friends at Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. I proudly have been a Beehive Club member for years. Now, if you join today, you get a $50 rebate on your spring and fall tune-up, and that means that you've already saved enough money to pay for the Beehive membership for the year. They'll even file those rebates so you don't have to. That's what I love about Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. They'll file those rebates so you don't have to. Always looking for ways for you to save money. There's a ton of other benefits as well. By the way, when you join the Beehive Club, BusyBeeHVAC.com is the website, BusyBeeHVAC.com. Call them, tell them Dan told you to reach out, 615-775-7833. $7:58, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk, 99.7 WTN. You know, it's kind of funny, Joan and KGB. I was here a little late yesterday.
I noticed.
And I overheard a conversation. And I was going to ask him about it, but I'll just go ahead and do it now. But the program director was talking to Chris Hand. And he was complimenting Chris on one of his segments. And I heard Chris say, my computer didn't work.
Oh, my gosh.
The whole setup.
Oh, my gosh.
And the computer didn't work.
I was about to say, I thought you were talking about me and Joan talk behind your back, but I guess you didn't hear that one.
No, I didn't.
Okay, good.
Oh my
Joan, we're
goodness.
safe for now.
This is so frustrating. The whole thing, I did a whole setup.
Wow.
And the computer, all right, here
It's
we go.
still not going to work, or?
All right, so then
All right.
I heard the program director complimenting Chris, and I heard Chris say,
I'm so proud of me right now.
That's what I heard Chris say.
That's what we were waiting for.
The whole thing.
His voice sounds strangely effeminate.
And Chris, you know, he sounds like a manly man.
I'm so proud of me right now.
I bet you if you actually took some of my segments,
I'm so proud of me right now.
That actually sounds more like me than Chris.
That's. I was honestly expecting an actual thing from Chris saying something.
No,
I did.
I'm so proud of me right now.
I'm moving right along. In case you don't know what that soundbite is, by the way, we will have some fun with that soundbite coming up at 8:35. Although coming up next, environmental and agriculture attorney Dustin KD is going to join us by phone 806. An alarming rise in autism. Stunning numbers came out yesterday. Details straight ahead. What's causing it? It's all ahead on Super Talk 99.7 W.
I'm so proud of me right now.
TN.
Good morning now, 8
Eleanor
o'clock.
Roosevelt.
I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. Hey, the roads are just beginning to be a mess right now. 24, the westbound lanes, a crash blocking the right shoulder at Medical Center Parkway. Got a crash in Lebanon, too. That one's on 40, the westbound lanes at the Murfreesboro Road exit. And then you've got a crash as well. Couple of them on 840 this morning. Northbound side at Couchville Pike, there's a crash and causing a big delay. And then 840 westbound past Paytonsville Trinity Road, there's another crash scene. We've got more coming up in traffic and weather right after the news. An internal investigation launched by Metro Nashville Police Department into the police department's own chief, John Drake. He is accused of carrying out a romantic relationship with a fellow employee while on the job. That's according to an investigation by WSMV, which says it has obtained text messages exchanged between the two. More information on the story as it becomes available. A statewide alert issued for a missing Bedford County woman, 83-year-old Sarah Paget, missing from her home in Shelbyville since April 2nd. She may be traveling in a blue Nissan sedan. Still no sign of 52-year-old Raul Rubio Perez. He's the man wanted for the stabbing death of his estranged wife in the parking lot of a Madison school on Monday. Police are getting help from federal officials, too. They say Rubio Perez has ties to Miami and to Mexico. New video released from the investigation into actor Gene Hackman's death. ABC's Lionel Moisey has more on the death of his wife, Betsy Arakawa, who was mistakenly thought that she suffered from COVID. Instead, she died from an infection transmitted by rodents.
Hantavirus causes flu-like symptoms and can lead to trouble breathing and fluid in the lungs. Documents now released by investigators show rodent activity and rodent nests were found scattered across the property, although not in the main house. Crime scene photos also reveal Arakawa had purchased products to help with respiratory issues and had canceled an appointment because of flu-like symptoms. Surveillance footage shows her wearing a mask at a CVS pharmacy in Santa Fe.
ABC's Lionel Moisey there. President Trump is escalating the penalties for Harvard University after it rejected demands to change its policies. Now, after freezing $2 billion of taxpayer funds to that university, he's questioning now Harvard's tax-exempt status. ABC's Will Reeve.
The president now suggesting the university should lose its tax-exempt status if it doesn't comply with his administration. Those demands include that Harvard report foreign students who've committed conduct violations to federal authorities, and all DEI programs and initiatives share hiring data and submit auditing on administrative data to ensure all departments have diverse viewpoints.
Former President Obama taking a swipe at the sitting president on social media, hoping other schools challenge the current administration as well. Market numbers brought to you by Beacon Capital Management, online at beaconcm.com. Could be a rough start at the opening bell in just about 27 minutes. The Dow futures are down 110 right now. NASDAQ futures minus 322. S&P futures are down 52 points. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News. Okay, those problems on 840 northbound have just turned into a closure. It's closed off 840 northbound between Bill France Boulevard, that's exit 65, and Couchville Pike, exit 67. The crew's there working on an accident. Now, you also have delays on 24, the westbound side past Medical Center Parkway with a crash blocking the right shoulder. Also, 24 eastbound at Shelby Avenue, exit 49 eastbound. The crash takes out the right exit lane, and you've got a crash too in Murfreesboro on Lebanon Pike at Alsip Mill Road. There's just one more, Antioch, Murfreesboro Pike at Franklin Limestone Road. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.807 Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. And welcome on in to the final hour of Nashville's Morning News here for this Wednesday, April 16th. Hope you are doing well. Alarming story that came out yesterday, although I don't believe that people that follow this kind of thing were surprised, but alarming story nonetheless, in a dramatic rise in autism. Listen to this. This is from CNN. About 1 in every 31 children was diagnosed with autism by age 8 in 2022. That is up from 1 in 36 in 2020, according to the CDC, a report published on Tuesday. They say rates have varied widely by gender, race, and geographic area. So very interesting, and a lot of people are combing through all of these studies. Dustin Kittle joins us. You remember Dustin from a previous interview we did out in Santa Fe, Tennessee. Environmental and agricultural attorney Dustin Kittle joins us. Dustin, how are you? And you live in this world of, autism, the accusation, of course, RFK Jr., and many people have said that pesticides and vaccines and these kinds of things could be part of the problem here. So let's first of all talk about this dramatic rise in autism. How shocked were you that these numbers, the numbers that came out yesterday?
Well, good morning, Dan, and appreciate you having me on. Certainly was not shocked in looking at those numbers. This is continuing a trend that we've seen really over the last 40 years, to where autism rates have increased significantly. There were a couple of things that made this study a little bit different than what we've seen in the past. This was a cross-sectional study that evaluated sites all across the country. And we saw a great variation between different geographic locations, which would seem to indicate that there are environmental factors that are playing a role in autism. The one other disturbing trend is you talked about 1 in 31 kids by age 8 who are now being diagnosed with autism. If you look at boys in particular, that number is all the way down to 1 in 20. And so just as a comparison, when we were looking at these numbers 25 years ago, back in 2020, we were talking about 1 in 150 kids. And certainly there's something to be said for the fact that we are able to evaluate this condition a little bit better, with each passing year. But there is certainly something going on. All the experts seem to agree on this. Something is going on beyond the fact that we're just able to identify this better.
Dustin, let me ask you, you said, I think you said environmental factors?
Yes.
Well, okay, so for someone who isn't isn't ingrained in this conversation. Can you define that for me?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's really, I break this down into two components. One would be genetic. There is no question that when we look at the data on autism, genetics plays a role. In fact, the biggest risk factor as far as a child having autism is whether they have a sibling that may have autism. And so those are the situations to where something in their genetics is either making them more susceptible to this condition, or it may be a situation to where they are just predestined to have that condition. Environmental would be the types of things that we can prevent. And when you look at environmental, you're really looking at 3 stages. That would be the prenatal stage while the child is in the womb, the birth stage, and then post-birth. The data that we've been compiling says that a child could be diagnosed with autism at any point before they turn 3 years old. And what we are seeing is there are healthy children that are being born, but by the time they turn 1 to 2 years old, they have changes and ultimately become diagnosed with autism.
Okay, a very powerful statement. And I know that, I've been talking about this for a long time, but you are somebody who is a part of this community of people that have been watching this rise of autism rates over the years. As a matter of fact, in our previous conversations, you told me a little bit about your relationship with RFK Jr. and how, as he was planning on joining the Trump administration, you were part of that team. Let's talk a little bit about what could be causing this. I mean, I know you said, and a lot of people will say, well, it's just, and some people are saying it is just based on the fact that we can now identify autism more concisely than ever before. But it sounds to me like you think that there's perhaps other things at play.
I think even the experts that maybe 10 years ago thought that that was the case, to where we were just getting better as far as being able to diagnose this condition, would agree now that the trends show there is something going on from an environmental standpoint. And RFK is a former environmental attorney. And one of the things that I think is going to strengthen the HHS under his leadership is the fact that he's getting rid of the corporate capture, the revolving door, to where you have people that were working in the CDC and the NIH who didn't want us to look at things like vaccines and whether they might possibly have some kind of trigger that is leading to autism. Some of the most recent studies are showing that this could all come back to gut health as far as the relationship between the gut and the brain. There is something, though, that is going on. And RFK made a key statement when he made an announcement recently saying that he expected to have the causes, at least a portion of the causes, released by September and charge the NIH with that duty. He says that he believes autism will ultimately be found to be preventable. And that's a huge statement.
That is a massive statement. Coming up, as I look at this data, they also say a few other things. More prevalent in Asian, Black, and Hispanic kids. That's number one. And more prevalent in what they call socially disadvantaged neighborhoods than what they call wealthy neighborhoods. We're going to talk about that and a whole lot more. Dustin KD, an environmental and agricultural attorney, is joining us here on Nashville's Morning News. Real quick, Dustin, hold on. Time to check the roads on WTN. Weather today, a high of 70, right now 49 at Super Talk 99.7. WTN, also going to be sunny. So, Dustin, let me ask you, let me tackle this one at a time. So the article says, the research says it's more prevalent autism and the rise in autism. You mentioned in boys, and I think that is well known, but also more prevalent in Asian, Black, and Hispanic kids as well, as we look at this alarming rise in autism. Have any idea what's going on there?
I think that comes back and it's showing us that there is some kind of environmental link because you're seeing the demographic numbers shift. And I wouldn't pretend to say that I have the absolute answer, but I'll give you an example of something we could be looking at. You could have specific areas where, let's just say their water quality is different. And in these studies that are showing that there is a link between gut health, and really what it's going to come down to is the serotonin level, which is something that affects mood, it affects learning. But you could have an area that might not have quality water, for example. There could be toxins that are getting in a child's system early on that creates a change in that serotonin level. And that's the one thing that we know is that there is a serotonin variance in these children when we're looking at them. And 90% of the serotonin in your body comes from the gut.
Okay, so I'm going to ask a very dumb question, but I know that there's people that want this question to be asked. What exactly is serotonin? Is that a chemical that your body manufactures?
It is. And again, it's kind of when we talk about these, there's some pharmaceuticals, obviously, that regulate serotonin. And people that have low serotonin, for example, are depressed. They would exhibit signs of being depressed. It's really, I compare serotonin to being kind of like a volume knob. And let's say that you're listening to music and between 6 and 8 on the scale is where you need to be. You need to fall in that. What we are seeing in kids with autism, sometimes that volume knob is turned a little bit far down. They might be at a 3 or 4. Or sometimes you might have a situation where the serotonin is too loud. And it really all comes down to their ability to process information. And it's why you have the different categories as far as an autism spectrum, to where you can have a highly functioning individual that may be able to process information at such a high level. The information's going at such a high level, it's impossible for them to break it down and to be able to communicate what they're actually thinking. And so that's where the serotonin is coming from. Again, 90% of it produced at the gut level. And an interesting connection there have been studies that have shown that certain vaccine components, including mercury, can have an impact as far as creating a variance in the body's level of serotonin.
So we've always had the suspicion that vaccines have been connected to the rising level of autism. Knowing what you know about RFK Jr., people would say that he's a vaccine skeptic, if you will. Do you believe, or have you heard any scuttlebutt that this is going to be connected to the vaccines?
This is what I would say about RFK. RFK is a trial attorney. And a lot of times that reputation, creates some negatives. But what he's trying to do is ultimately create a case and look at the evidence and take it where it leads him. And when it comes to vaccines, when there are so many people, and I compare this to the glyphosate issue that we just dealt with here in Tennessee. Yep. When it comes to vaccine, when you've got so many people, particularly from the pharmaceutical industry, saying this is a closed issue, there are no links whatsoever. It's kind of like a kid that's playing hide and go seek. You go in and turn a light on, they say, well, nobody's in here. Well, that lets you know when they start saying, don't even look in this direction, there could be a link that's there. And that's what I'll say about Kennedy. I think he will look at all the evidence, present it to the public. I don't think from his statements he has the political capital to do anything that's going to change vaccines, nor do I necessarily think that he should. But we need the public to have information. We need to educate them on what is going on and let them make their own decisions.
You mentioned, and again, I realize I'm asking very pedantic questions, but I'm not a scientist or an attorney or anything, but you mentioned gut level and the serotonin level. Right. So is that something that is based on what someone is eating, has eaten when they were kids? What does that mean?
So it could be those things, but more likely, I'll tell you, one of the autism studies went back and looked at prenatal issues involving the mothers. And there was a significantly higher rate of children born with autism where the mother might have taken an antibiotic during the period of time that she was pregnant. And what that antibiotic could do to the fetus is make a change in what's called the microbiome. And again, just to simplify it, we're talking about things that ultimately from the stomach can affect the brain. And, same thing with vaccines when you're looking at that. It's not necessarily what you're eating, but it is how that gut is developed, because ultimately there is a connection between the gut and the brain.
That is fascinating. Interesting.
I'll say this was thought to be a debunked, and we hear this all the time.
Oh, we sure do.
But the gut health issue, as far as the connection with the brain and the link there, was thought to be a debunked issue. But as we see time and time again, some of these things that are debunked were debunked for a reason. That's because they didn't want the truth to be found out. But it really aligns with everything RFK has talked about as far as this Make America Healthy Again movement. And you haven't heard a whole lot about this connection with gut health and the brain. But I think as we get closer to September and we start releasing these root causes, that's what we will find. Because vaccines in and of themselves, I agree, vaccines is not causing autism, but is it triggering something inside the body that is the actual root cause? And for example, disturbance of the microbiome in the gut that's actually creating signals that go to your brain in how you behave and how you learn.
Okay. So when this report comes out in September, you mentioned this earlier, but I want to get it in a more direct answer. Do you think that the report in September, do you think that it'll lead to any kind of policy changes? Will it lead to any kind of maybe a relook at some of these vaccines or, maybe pesticides, whatever it may be? Will the report lead, in your opinion, to any kind of change?
I think it will, because I think what we will see is with some of this, the evidence might be so overwhelming that we need to take another look. And I'm talking about things in particular with the pharmaceutical industry. Are there things that are going on with the pharmaceutical industry that is creating a higher rate of autism? And, people say, back to the point of, are we just discovering this better? I think from a genetic standpoint, there probably has always been something there as far as kids that have autism in a situation to where the environment's not affecting it. But where the policy comes in are what environmental changes can we make to ensure that these kids are not developing autism as a result of something we are doing.
Fascinating. All right, Dustin, I appreciate you being on with us. Is there anything about this conversation that we've missed that I should have asked?
No, I mean, I just think this. I think the community in science, community in health, Nashville has great facilities in that regard. We just need to keep an open mind. At the end of the day, we shouldn't be ruling out anything from vaccines to antibiotics to anything else. Let's take a holistic look. Let's take a look at everything. Let's see where the evidence leads us.
All right, Dustin, how can people find you on X?
I am on X at Dustin Kittle and would love to have you following along.
Kittle. Dustin, as always, thank you very much. And I know that I'll be asking for your help again as we navigate through this really interesting Dustin Kittle. All right. Joan Jones has the news coming up at 8:30. Hey, Joan.
Yeah, that was pretty fascinating. Okay, it's being called a miraculous rescue of the East Tennessee pastor who was kidnapped in South Africa. We've got some details. And the motivation behind the firebombing of the Pennsylvania governor's mansion, now it's revealed. We're also going to take a look at the stock market after the opening bell. Those stories coming up here at 8:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Yeah, along those lines, listen, the weather in Middle Tennessee can get really crazy, which is why you need a backup home standby generator from my friends at the Generator Supercenter, the nation's #1 Generac generator dealer. Now, you can get a free quote and get peace of mind when you have one installed. Now, the Generator Supercenter does feature expert installation and 24-hour monitoring. They're not going to leave you in the dark. When the power's out in your neighborhood, your home will be fine. Lights will be on, power will be on with your backup home standby generator from my friends at the Generator Supercenter. Call them 615-879-1952. Financing is available. 615-879-1952. Generator Supercenter of Nashville.com. Hey, 28, Super Talk 99.7, Loan Pronto. Listen, friends, interest rates have plummeted. It is time to call my friends at Loan Pronto. Dan Mandis here. Now, if you are looking to get cash out of your home equity, refinance out of maybe a high rate, or maybe do a home improvement project, Loan Pronto can make it happen in a matter of days. Take advantage of this opportunity and get tens or even hundreds of thousands out of your home's equity. Pay off all your credit cards and pay off those car loans as well. You know, the average homeowner, when working through Loan Pronto, cuts their monthly bills by over $1,000. Get info at loanpronto.com. Inflation and higher costs have put a lot of people in a stressful financial situation. But if you own a home, there is a way out. And that way is Loan Pronto. Find them online. It is loanpronto.com. Loanpronto.com. You can call them at 615-499-5780. 615-499-5780. Loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender. NMLS 166-1781. Subject to lender approval. NMLSconsumeraccess.org.
Good morning, 8:30. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. The East Tennessee pastor who was kidnapped in South Africa last week, midway through a sermon, has been rescued in a dramatic shootout. Channel 4's Danielle Ledbetter.
A specialized unit went to a house and found the pastor in a car. Kidnappers were also in the car, and they tried to get away and then shot at police officers. Then those officers returned fire, killing 3 people, and they were able to rescue Sullivan. Police say he was miraculously unharmed and in excellent condition.
Police say his survival from that shootout was nothing short of a miracle. Sullivan hails from Fellowship Baptist Church in Maryville. The motive behind the firebombing of Pennsylvania governor's mansion now revealed. A search warrant obtained by the news site Penn Live says the accused man, Cody Balmer, targeted the governor in part because of his views on the war in Gaza. Balmer called 911 after allegedly igniting that fire, saying Shapiro needs to know that he, quote, will not take part in his plans for what he wants to do to the Palestinian people. A bill has passed the state house and is up for debate in the state Senate now. It bans any hemp product that exceeds the federal allowable level of THC, which is 0.3%. The owner of the Greenhouse dispensary in Nashville tells News 2.
The economic impact is substantial. Consumer side, a lot of people have found relief with our company and other companies to be able to find products that are safe, legitimate, and they no longer had to rely on things off the street.
The bill could be heard on the Senate floor today. Money News brought to you by Beacon Capital Management, online at beaconcm.com. We're starting off on the lower side. Dow Jones Industrials down 141. NASDAQ falling more than 300 points, and the S&P 500 index is minus 50. That's the latest news, traffic, and weather. Next, I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
So it's kind of funny, Joan.
Mm-hmm.
So Chris comes in.
Yeah.
Now, I want to see if you say what I said to Chris automatically. He walks in and he says, "There's no cups in this building." And I said, "Of course there's cups." Do you know where I told them to look, Joan?
No.
Downstairs in sales.
Oh, always, yeah. Yeah.
They
get everything.
They've got all the highfalutin stuff. They've got like the fancy teas.
Yeah.
They've got the fancy coffees. They've got an espresso machine that radio people are not allowed to use.
They've got cups.
Well,
They've got utensils.
Well, I'm not
plastic
sure.
utensils.
Do you think they have the security down there to prevent us from actually getting a cup from the first floor?
No, and actually, the best time to do it is before the staff comes in.
Oh, yeah, they roll in about 10. I am not making any friends from the
Definitely
from the
not.
sales department.
Don't drag me down with you, buddy.
Too late. 8:33, Nashville's Morning News on WTN. Dan Mandis here. What big events do you have planned? Whether it is a big corporate, maybe a family reunion event, maybe a wedding at your home, a birthday, Easter celebration, my friends at Nashville graduation, my friends at Nashville Tent and Awning. They can help you with an incredible enclosure that can be installed anywhere. Now, they've been around since 1884. These folks are a Nashville institution, and they've worked with the likes of the Tennessee Titans, Vanderbilt University, and, of course, the Grand Ole Opry. They are one of the top companies in Nashville, and they can help you. I want you to think about your backyard. Now, you can actually extend your living space with a backyard enclosure so that you can enjoy the nice shade. As the sun gets hotter and we head into summertime, if you have an event, maybe for work coming up, they can help you there as well with a tent or enclosure. And they've got awnings for any style of building that will improve the look and feel of your home or office. Now, what you want to do, get some visuals, check them out for yourself. ntaco.com, ntaco.com, ntaco.com. Call them, tell them Dan told you to reach out, 615-329-3701, 615-329-3701. Solid craftsmanship and built to last since 1884, Nashville Tent and Awning. Dan Matt is here for Tennessee National. Lake lovers, listen up. Tennessee National, a highly anticipated lakefront resort, golf, and marina community, is having a spring sales event going on right now. They're leading up to it Saturday, April 26th. Right now, they are booking private tours. But I want you to listen to these incredible deals. Right now at Tennessee National, this is about 20 minutes outside of Knoxville, Tennessee. Cottage package with a boat slip, $379.9. A lake lot with covered boat slips, that is starting at $64.9, and subdividable wooded lots from $79.9. And for the first time ever, this is actually my favorite, they've got fully furnished lakefront townhomes as well. Amazing properties at Tennessee National. Incredible amenities as well. Private golf cart access to a new marina and resort, 10 miles of walking trails, and 3.5 miles of shoreline, among many other things. Pickleball, pools, on-site coffee shop, and a whole lot more. Again, 20 minutes from Knoxville, Tennessee. Financing is available. Remember, that is Saturday, April 26th. Find them online, TennesseeNational.com. Secure your private tour. Better yet, you can call them, 865-408-9992. Tell them Dan told you to reach out, 865-408-9992 for Tennessee National.
Okay, on 840 westbound, the roadway is now open. It's not closed any longer, but they are still working at a crash scene, 840 westbound, just past Paytonsville Trinity Road, exit 34. Now, you have a crash on 65, northbound side, Old Hickory Boulevard, and a crash, too, in Antioch. This one's at Murfreesboro Pike at Franklin Limestone Road. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, I guess we're here. 8:37, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Sorry for the late start there, folks.
That's kind of my fault.
Do you want to here's what I want to do. I want you to tell the folks listening, clean it up a little bit, exactly what you were telling me when I was supposed to be talking on the air.
How do I clean that up?
So the question that Chris asked,
there is a question, and Joan and Jeff, I sent you guys this on Twitter as well, so that way you can get the visual. The question is, would you rape a dog to save a dog?
What?
And there is a video.
It's all in your I slid into all of your DMs on X, and I sent you this video.
Chris is sending us dog porn.
He rapes, but he saves.
What?
So you got to describe, and I'm looking at this. This is horrific.
Oh, hello.
So describe what is happening.
All right, so there's a viral video of an incident going on at a dog park.
Yes.
Where a German Shepherd is eating what looks like a Shih Tzu, right? Just eating this dog. And nobody can get the German Shepherd off this dog until one hero appears. And this guy knows exactly what he needs to do. And he sneaks up behind the German Shepherd. He lifts the tail. And he forcibly inserts his finger in the dog's rectum over and over and over until the German Shepherd releases the Shih Tzu.
Someone commented on it, dude found the factory reset button.
So I ask all of you, if you were in this situation, would you rape a dog to save a dog?
Joan?
I'm scared to death of big dogs. I don't think I'd approach the situation.
KGB?
I mean, you know what? Sometimes you just got to do what you got to do.
That's not a yes or no.
I would. Yes, I said I would. If I had to, because apparently, if you read the comments in there, that's actually what they do to like. You're supposed to do that.
Let the record show Jeff would rape to save.
Yes, a dog, not. Come on,
Chris.
No,
you wouldn't save a little Shih Tzu.
No,
you wouldn't save a little Shih Tzu.
Not that way.
Sacrificial. Shih Tzu.
I would save the Shih Tzu, but I would be packing at the dog park. I would be like that guy in Nashville. Remember that story a few years back?
I sure do.
That's how I would save
the dog.
Yep,
really?
I would shoot the dog before I raped the dog.
And that's okay to do?
So okay, hold on. I want to make sure we got this right.
Okay.
So Chris would rather kill a dog
or maim it,
than
rape it.
Rape it.
So there's a
Yes.
story in the comments on this that like a guy was mauled by a pack of dogs like in the woods or something, and what he did was that, and the dogs ran away afterwards. So it kind of saved his life.
You
so
have to assert dominance.
Okay. And do you know what the guy said after he saved the Shih Tzu?
I'm so proud of me right now.
That's what he said.
I think he said, "Does anyone have hand sanitizer?"
Very good.
If you are in need of the visual, it's on my X page at Chris Hand on Air.
Okay.
Nobody needs it. They just want it.
They want it.
Okay.
Dog parks are always exciting, aren't they? Because you always have the guy or the person who isn't watching their dog.
Yep.
And so you have, that person whose dog is attacking all these other dogs and people.
Mm-hmm.
And you think, why are you at a dog park if you can't control your mutt? I get so frustrated. That's why we don't take Bandit to a dog park, because I'll get in fights. And then you know what else is at the dog park?
What's that?
Usually if you go to a dog park, do you know who actually is the most aggressive dogs? The little ones.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, they have to be.
Well, Dan, I think there's another reason you don't go to dog parks, because you don't want to be. You like being petted, so it's just not a place you should be.
You feel a little bit jealous.
Yeah.
Everybody starts coming up and wanting to pet me.
No. You go up to them and say, "Can you pet me?"
So, update to yesterday's story about the guy that is doing some bathroom work for me, and I accidentally texted to him that I like to be petted. All right. I don't think do I need to go through the story again? If you missed it.
Do you have a Cliff Notes version?
Yeah, very quickly. I was texting with Amy. I had a personal victory. She was ignoring me. She said, "You're being annoying like Bandit." And then I accidentally texted to this other guy, because I had 4 text messages threads going on at the same time. I accidentally messaged this guy, "I like to be petted."
Still funny. It's still funny.
So I get there. So in answer to
would you rather have found yourself texting the guy that you want to be petted, or be the guy at the dog park?
Would you rather?
So no, the guy didn't know that I had a radio show. That was your question yesterday. Yep. But I get there, and I kind of told him the Cliff Notes version of the story. So he actually said to me, he said, "I've been trying to convince the guys to pet you when you walked into the warehouse." Now, I don't know if I should be insulted or relieved, but nobody wanted to pet me when I walked in.
Oh.
It was like a game day decision. And I walked in and nobody wanted to pet me.
Can you imagine the conversation between the guys?
Oh, they thought it was all hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
Of course.
I just want to see. Nice to meet you, Dan.
It's exactly right. Pat me on the head. Yeah. That's fine. Whatever.
So funny.
Hey, can we talk about real quick? Because I have this audio from Gayle King. Do you know the controversy of Gayle King? What's going on?
Not really.
Okay, so Gayle King, she is known mainly as Oprah's best friend. And she also happens to be a television host on one of the networks. I'm not sure which one. Which one is it, Joan?
CBS.
Okay, good. So CBS. So Gayle King and Katy Perry and 5 other women go up in this spacecraft to the edge of space, and then they come back down.
Yep.
Okay. So,
underwhelming.
Well, that's what I didn't even pay attention to the story until it got controversial.
Did you see what the internet was saying? They said Jeff Bezos paid $25 million for a 90-minute break from his wife.
Was his wife on that?
Yeah.
Oh, no, his fiance. They're not married yet.
Oh, okay.
He's got to put a ring on that finger, man. It's been years. Whatever.
Well, he's going to lose half the money again.
So this is Gayle King, and this is what she said.
Gayle King, you are officially an astronaut. How do you feel?
I still can't accept that word.
Now, nobody else is accepting the word either. She's actually, believe it or not, running around and talking about how she is an astronaut.
I'm so proud of me right now. I still can't believe it. I still can't believe it.
So
you're not an astronaut. You're a space tourist.
Exactly. I said those exact words.
That's exactly right. And so the deal is she's 70 years old and she was afraid of flying.
I can't even believe what I saw. When somebody calls this a ride, this was not a ride.
What happened to us was not a ride. This was a bona fide friggin' flight. And our instructor, we were so well prepared. So every noise we heard, we knew. But the flight instructor said that I am her best success story. Why? Because she's never had somebody go through the course who's terrified of flying.
So basically, she got into a big piece of flying metal.
Yep.
They got strapped in, and up they go to the edge of space. And then they come back down. Now, don't get me wrong. That's cool, right? I mean, that's a cool thing to do. But they didn't do anything.
No.
And so then they come out. This is Gayle King, just making way too much out of basically a space ride.
To me, it's such a reminder about how we need to do better, be better. Do better, be better human beings.
And what do you mean by that?
Processing. Well, it's so nasty and so vitriolic nowadays. And I mean, if everybody could experience that peace that we had up there and the kindness and what it takes to do what we did.
So, again, she's trying to pass herself off as an astronaut. And
what it takes to do what we did, get an invite from a billionaire?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Paying
Pony up some money.
Yeah, paying $150,000.
Be somebody is what they did. And so she is comparing herself, or actually literally calling herself, an astronaut. So earlier we were talking about what actual astronauts have to do to be real astronauts, which is years of college, wilderness survival training, water survival training, robotics training, procedure training, rehabilitations as far as the training and the process goes there. And they need to learn how to do all the experiments that they do up in space. And so she's basically, in my opinion, she is way overplaying the card. And so I love what critics are saying.
A group of rich women who went into space. Wow. Mark that under who gives a shit. These celebrities who are so disconnected from reality, I just find unbelievably annoying. And then I happened to see Katy Perry when she got off the spaceship thing, and she said, I feel so connected to love. And I thought, did you sit down and think, what is the most insufferable thing I can say? You do realize that the vast majority of people just trying to get by, all right? You're floating around in space for 11 minutes. Almost everyone else is just trying to figure out how to pay bills.
I mean, listen, she's right, but the best part of this whole story is Gayle King saying that it is sexist if you say you literally went on a ride and you're not an astronaut. Listen.
Please don't call it a ride. That is not a friggin' ride. Whenever a man goes up, you have never said to an astronaut, boy, what a ride. You know, we duplicated the same trajectory that Alan Shepard did back in the day.
She's comparing herself to Alan Shepard.
Oh, talk about insufferable.
And the other thing, and that is actually the perfect word, Joan, is insufferable. And she said, you never said to a man that it was a ride and not a... And here's the thing. No men have done what she did. She strapped in and went up. That's all she did. All the men have been actual astronauts.
And women. Multiple women have been astronauts.
It's a great point. We're talking about Kirsten McAuliffe earlier. So, and she was a teacher who went through, I think she went through a ton of training.
She did.
Yeah.
So,
and also the one that was, I don't know, stuck in space for 9 months.
Yeah, Suni Williams.
Yeah.
And Butch Wilmore.
Pretty much. No one called that a ride. It was called a flight. It was called a journey, because a ride implies that it's something frivolous or something that's lighthearted.
Was this not frivolous?
You were singing.
It was clearly frivolous.
There was nothing frivolous about what we did.
Yes, it was.
And the machine that we were on, and what it took for the people to get that machine up and running, to get us up and get us back down safely.
So,
and aren't they the astronauts, the one that got the machine running up successfully?
Thank you.
Honestly,
perfect comment, Joan. So she talked about how, and if you listen to her words, she was basically, she got on the thing, she got strapped in, they went up, they went down, and it was piloted by
a man,
an astronaut. I don't know if it was. In fairness, I think it was a woman.
I find it successful, though, that the people who are questioning her astronaut bona fides at least she didn't call them racist. Like everything
nice.
else is racist.
It's early yet.
Yeah.
And clearly people aren't buying the sexism angle, so racism is going to be next.
Yeah. Give it like 10, 15 minutes.
I had missed the part where Katy Perry said she felt so connected to love.
Yeah, you know what?
She kissed the ground like she was. I'm sorry. You went on a flight which is basically like you took a plane and went from Nashville to Franklin.
Yeah, basically that's what you did. What did you say earlier? KGB,
What did I say earlier
about your pizza? Oh
yeah, my pizza in the oven takes longer than their flight. My pizza takes 18 minutes. That is 6-7 minutes longer than they were on the air.
And you know what? That was a great comment he made earlier. And you know what he said after he made the comment?
I'm so proud of me right now.
I did. I took a victory lap. I was so proud of myself.
All right. Let's see here. Anybody else got anything? Because I'm done.
Who's more of a hero, the guy at the dog park or Gail King?
Guy in the dog park. Absolutely.
I love all of us said that at the same time.
Yeah.
No question.
All right.
He needs a statue.
He does. He deserves it. Not all heroes wear
Or
capes.
at least his finger.
That's great.
Oh, boy.
We need someone on that
Everyone was
ASAP.
done with their breakfast.
What did you say? Not all heroes wear capes?
Not all heroes wear capes. It's funny, though. He said something similar to what Katy Perry said right after. He said, I feel so connected to love right now.
Hero.
Man. But you're right. Not all
And
heroes
by the way-
wear capes. Some have dirty fingers.
Yep, that's true.
I just want to point out, like, remember when Gail was like saying we had to learn stuff. We had to learn what the buttons meant and the noises meant. It's like, congratulations.
Wow.
You're so brave.
Yeah,
Were they labeled?
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, they were.
Anyway, all right. Who's got what? What do you got?
Well, I don't think we can top the stunning and bravery that we saw from these ladies, but we'll damn near try. 245% tariffs on China. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Biden spotted in the wild. Are we going to start going with Biden 2028? I think we're gonna.
Oh, can you imagine?
Plus, we have updates on the border. You know, the wife of that Maryland man, the Dear Maryland dad. She says that he's the nicest guy in the world and needs to come back, but there's actually a lot more skeletons in that closet than anybody wants to reveal.
Sure can't wait for that.
So we'll talk about that and more.
Honda wants to move 90% of their auto production to the U.S. to avoid tariffs.
Is that good? Is that good?
Yeah, that's good.
More American jobs.
Asking for a friend. Isn't that what Trump said was going to happen?
You know what we call that? We call that winning. That is what we call it.
Janet Yellen said it was a pipe dream just a day ago.
She did. Well, she's been smoking the pipe.
Yep.
Or eating those mushrooms.
Eating the Chinese magic mushrooms.
Chinese magic mushrooms. All righty. Well, enough of that. Joan, what's coming up?
Yeah, so don't freak out. Driverless cars are being tested on Nashville streets. And just when you thought Big Lot stores were doomed, they've just made a comeback here in Middle Tennessee. Those stories and more coming up here at 9 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
$8:54 in Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7. How do I depend on Xfinity? Let me count the ways. Now, I've got a lot riding on my rock-solid internet from Xfinity, Riker, homework and gaming, Amy working all day long from home, and of course, yours truly, always prepping and doing shows from my basement as well. All of that courtesy of Xfinity. And by the way, if something does go wrong, they can make it right with 24/7 customer service for whenever you need it. And with Riker in the house, he's 11, it is critical that we're able to check out what he's watching. Responsible parents do. And with Xfinity, you can. They make it easy, and you can depend on these folks. So check them out online anytime at Xfinity.com. That's Xfinity.com. Tell them Dan Mandis told you to reach out. I've been a customer for years with my friends at Xfinity. Call them 1-800-XFINITY or stop by a store today. we're getting criticized for the whole dog rape story.
It's a big story.
Here's the deal. That was actually a public service, because if your dog is getting attacked by a bigger dog, now you know what to do.
Assert dominance.
That's exactly right. Did you say insert dominance?
I think you could.
Marconi, ladies and gentlemen.
I got a text from 7516 that said this happened to them once, and her husband used a mop handle on a big dog to get it off a small dog.
A mop handle?
A mop handle.
That's
that would be my preferred choice.
Not if you're the dog.
No, definitely not.
Moving right along. All right.
We've been trying to move along for like 10 minutes.
Yes, we have, because it's time for me to go home. All right. Let's see here. Senator Bill Haggerty tomorrow.
Oh, all right. What are you talking about with Bill?
Not this.
You going to bring up the dog rape story?
Nor will I bring up the petting. No, none of that.
He just canceled.